Hey guys, welcome. We're doing the free coaching Friday. So excited to be with you. We're going to just coach as long as there are questions, people who want to be coached, unless I just have to give up at some point. But usually it's just, about an hour or two, usually a couple hours. Um, but no rush. We're going to get to everyone's questions. And sometimes, even just by listening to other people get coached, you might think of a new question or you might get your question answered. So just keep trying to apply whatever you're hearing to your situation. So I thought we could get started with a little breathing exercise. I actually learned this in the PRT advanced training. So they have like a practitioner training and then an advanced one. And they taught us the quickest method to calm your nervous system through breathing is called the physiologic sigh. So it's two breaths. I'm going to mute y'all. Hold on. All right. So the physiologic sigh or physiological sigh is a breath in, and then you breathe in one more time, a little sip of air, and then a long exhale through your mouth. So they actually had us do this for 5 minutes. He said sometimes if people can't do somatic tracking, he'll have them do this. And I actually started to get some kind of like lightheadedness and numbness in my face and some things that can happen with breath work, just normal things. Um, but definitely there's a shift when you do that, especially if you do it for 5 minutes. We're not going to do that today. We have plenty of coaching to do, but let's just get a taste of that. So I want you all to do it with me. Breathe in as much as you can, and then breathe in a little more, and then a long exhale, like you're blowing through a straw. And then again, breathe in, full lung capacity, and then you're able to breathe in a little more, and then and that long exhale, go ahead again. That long exhale is the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. Another sip and keep going a few more times. Big breath in, see how you can get a little more air in, and then maybe imagine on the exhale sinking down into your chair or surface a little bit more. So we'll just do a few more breaths. That physiologic sigh. You guys, I can't remember if it's physiologic or physiological. It might be physiological sigh, but you know what I mean. It's that double breath and then, okay. So then just check in with yourself. We did a few breaths. Just notice how that feels, how it felt when you were doing it. If nothing else, it switches your mind to doing something different, right? You're focusing on the breath, you're focusing on this technique, you're not worrying about your pain, you're not worrying about what you're going to say, right? It's like a shift. It's showing your brain you can shift your focus. Okay, so I want to do one more little exercise with you. So go ahead and close your eyes if you can, right? If you're driving, don't. But I want you to just check in with your body. Just see how you're feeling right now on the surface that you're on. See how your body is feeling in the different parts of your body. And I want you to think about the question that you have today, if you have a specific question. And I want you to think about how you would feel if you had the answer. You don't have to know what the answer is, but just how you would feel with the answer and that feeling, and try to feel that in your body. What is that emotion and how does it feel? So I want you to just, you can go ahead and open your eyes and just think about that feeling, what it was, and you can put it in the chat um, if you have the chat up. I'll be looking at that as well. The way we can do it is you can raise your hand. You can raise your virtual hand by going to that reactions button, and there's hand gestures. At least that's how it looks on my computer. On a phone, it might look different. So if you can't figure that out though, if there's kind of a pause and you want to unmute, you can do that too. Oh, Rebecca, I would feel relief. Yeah. So it's like, what would relief feel like in your body? Imagine what it would feel like, right? So you're starting to implant in your brain that something like this might be possible. And then you hear it a little differently. Relief, but also anxiety. Super interesting, right? Like our nervous system kind of likes where it is. So when we think about relief, it's like a little bit of anxiety too. Light, relief equals calm. Yeah. Relief, and I agree with myself. Oh, I like it. And yeah, how does agreeing with yourself feel? Right? It's like we're used to focusing on certain sensations in our bodies and then just realizing like we can actually create other sensations in our bodies that do feel good, that feel good. And really, the more they study emotions, the positive emotions, things like gratitude, actually physically affects our body. Like it lowers our blood pressure, it increases our immunity. I mean, it's crazy. But Jeb Dana's book Anchored talks about that, the the actual physical benefits of these positive emotions. So if you're in a lot of state of fear all of the time, try to balance it out on purpose. Sometimes be great if you could do equal airtime, right? As much as you're worrying, you're also thinking about the positive or feeling positive emotions. Okay. And yes, Anchored is a great book. I've actually done a book club on Anchored too. If you look at my YouTube channel, there's Anchored Book Club. And it was so good. So many good like insights from that. Directed, confident, and knowing what to do. Ooh, see, I love that. Yeah. That's a different approach, right? It's a different idea to be like, okay, it's possible that I might feel this. It's possible I might feel clear, directed, confident, relief, relief and anxiety. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dr. Schubner says there's these barriers to getting better. And sometimes, we're used to worrying about things. We're used to a certain level of, um, you know, high guard or something like that. So it makes sense that our nervous system just and our brain just change in these little ways, little bit by bit, kind of like graded exposure of like, okay, this is safe. This is safe. If you go all the way to like, I have the perfect answer, there's like, wait, that doesn't feel safe. Anxiety. Okay, let's get to coaching. Do we have hands up yet? Is the Lisa here that needs to go in like 20 minutes? That's you? Okay, let's start with you.
I am, but I actually don't have, it's my first time, so I was just going to listen in. Like, I
Oh,
don't actually have a burning question because I
oh,
don't know
okay.
what the coaching is about. So I'm happy to listen.
Oh, okay. Do you want to, okay, you want to just listen? I'll just ask you just maybe like a couple
Yeah.
questions. Um, where are you? 0 to 10 was like your belief that whatever symptoms you have are neuroplastic. Where would you say you are on that?
Oh, I'm at the high end. I'm
Yeah.
definitely there. And I'm doing his class, his Coursera class,
Nice.
Schubner's.
Yes.
Uh, but it's just, it's getting it into my body. I think it's more of, that work for me. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So like somatic tracking, how does that go for you?
Well, one thing that was really helpful for me was understanding that somatic tracking occurs when you're like in the middle zone, but when it's like super high, I have to have a different strategy. That was game changing for me because I was way up here and trying to do
Mhm.
strategies that were more appropriate for something else. Um,
Mhm.
so that was really helpful.
Good.
I'm also working with this woman who's just literally just doing like touch, and then I'm trying to relax my bracing, which is really cool
Mhm.
because when my body settles and my mind settles,
Yeah.
it's just been interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just working on still understanding like when do I do what and what's most
Mhm.
helpful? Like when do I need a calming strategy or like a release it out? Like that's where
Mhm.
I am.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, that is a good question. And I would just say from my experience with somatic tracking, before the way out came out and before they were talking about somatic track, at least what I knew of, maybe they were talking about it, but I had missed it until um, a certain time. But before that, I actually have a somatic tracking meditation, and I usually never listen to it, but I was having some really severe abdominal pain one night, and I just thought to listen to it. And it was like a 10 and it helped it. I mean, it didn't go to a 0, but it was like got to a 5. So although we want these like hard and fast rules of if it's this, do this, if it's this, do this, just remember that what you need in that moment, you'll be best to decide. Now it is hard, right? When you're starting, because you're like, I don't really trust myself, or I don't really know what I want. But also just realize, throughout Unlearn Your Pain or those books, he says you don't have to do every exercise. Do the ones that are calling to you. I know when I started this work, I got so in overwhelmed with all the information there was that I was just like, I've got to listen to this. I've got to, do this all the time. So for some of us, it's more like slow down. And
Yeah.
so,
My biggest practice is probably not pressuring myself, like
yeah,
even to get better. It's like,
yeah,
right, that's not
same.
helping.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So when we try to heal with that same energy that got us to this place, it doesn't work. Right. And so that urgency, that state of flight is like, we're not usually running from tigers these days, but it's like, if I could be more perfect, then I'd be safe. If I could do it faster and better, I'd be safe. If I could do it without anyone's help, I'd be safe. You know what I mean? Like it's that coping mechanism, that trauma response of, there's a lot of pressure to be good. And if I could just do it better, then I would feel better. If my room was clean and, then I wouldn't have anxiety. But right. So that energy, right? Can you feel that? Can all of you guys like kind of think of a time where you've had that, you're rushing to get out the door and you have that urgency, you have a new symptom and you're like, I've got to go Google it. You spend hours and you're Googling and right that, and you're just like, oh, that's flight. So that's more the fight or flight. You guys probably all know fight too, but yeah. And that can be, you can feel it in your body. And Deb Dana's book actually, and the work that I do, we go through that kind of stuff is like, okay, here's this nervous system state. And you can actually feel that in your body where fight is, your fists clench up, your jaw tenses, you get more hot. And then flight is more that urgency, gotta fix something, gotta do something, no time, too much to do. So those are more like you want to calm, right? You want to just like do less. You want to recognize your anxiety as just one of those other symptoms that you're like, oh, this is misinformation from the brain. My brain is telling me if I keep pushing myself harder and do more, then I'll feel better. But it's just, it's misinformation. It's not true. So does that make sense as far as how that feels in your body and when you would want to calm down? Yeah. And then when you're in fight or flight too long, or if this is your coping mechanism, some people, they've had this since childhood because like freeze was the best
Yeah.
solution their
That's
nerves
me.
come for. Okay, yeah, could
Yeah.
come.
I've had it all along. So the woman said, you have no before. So I'm
Mm,
creating before now.
yeah, yeah,
Because mhm.
yeah. So going into freeze, it's more like fatigue, brain fog, hopeless, helpless, shame, guilt. Nothing will ever change, and you want to isolate. You don't want to be around people. You want to, um, just it's like detach, dissociate. Yeah. And so, do your symptoms kind of correlate with things like that? That's more likely, chronic fatigue or,
Yeah. Well, I
constipation.
always laugh because I say I can do all the moves.
Mhm.
I can do this move over here and I can do that. But it took me years to figure out even what was happening because I would have said at one point, I would have told you I had fatigue issues. At one point, I would have said I have more of the anxiety issue, right? Like
Yeah.
I can play all the roles.
Well, you know what? And you know what? In a way, it's like that's a normal nervous system. It's like, of course, you could say that's, my nervous system can do all of those. I just want to be
Mhm.
able to move in between them, like riding a wave rather than getting stuck in one and then getting
Yeah,
stuck in another. Because
that makes
usually
sense.
what happens is there's high anxiety people, achievers. I've coached a lot of physicians. They're all this, push, push, push. And then at some point you burn out. So you go from this like to like just stick.
Totally did that. Yep.
Yeah. So, and then you're like, well, I used to be like this. Maybe the way out is to like just push myself again and I'll do this 30-day blah, blah, blah. Don't do it. And then you feel bad again. And so it's just this like trapped in freeze state.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
All, that's
Yeah.
all very familiar.
Yeah. So
It's a
what
lot
would
of
you do?
unlearning.
Yeah, from the freeze state, what kind of strategies would you more use?
Well, it's a good question. Like I'm definitely trying to do more like reaching out, like because I will if I am isolated or
Mhm,
I'm
mhm,
trying to make small steps forward so
mhm.
that I don't keep going
Yeah.
down into
Yeah.
constriction.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. Yep. Small steps forward. It's like a bear coming out of hibernation, right? You're just like
Yeah.
slowly, gently.
Or even just telling people, like I used to be like, I don't know, I had all manner of some kind of excuse of like, but now I can be more honest about like where I am and what's going on. Um,
Yeah.
and not have it be some other random illness or
Yeah. Yeah. Even just having the vocabulary to, like with my boyfriend, I say, I'm feeling kind of freezy right now. That's probably why I think everything's going wrong. And I look at that picture and I have nothing but criticism. And you know, right, like feeling kind of freezy. We just have different vocabulary. And then it's not like, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. This is happening to me. It's like, oh, okay, nervous system got a little triggered here, or I'm evolving. And so that put me into a fear state here.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as like coming out of freeze and fawn is kind of together with freeze, and there's different versions of freeze. The whole polyvagal theory is like, very complex. And I like to just give the very simplest version possible, because this work also really focuses on the brain, the conscious brain. But I think it's so important to just at least know what's going on with your nervous system, so that then you're like, oh, okay, when this happens to me, I go into fight. When, my friend does this, it's because she's going into flight because she has her own nervous system. It's just like the more
Mhm.
vocabulary we have about it, the descriptions, then it normalizes it and we can just deal with it better.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But yeah, so freeze and fawn is more like the people pleasing, yeah. So those, typically getting out of those, you could even move slowly, right? Just the act of like slowly moving, at least then
Mhm.
you're slowly moving. But the thing is, if you're really active, slowly moving could work too, right? Because then you're just like calming your nervous system. So a lot of those tools can work for both, rather than, so generally educating yourself and having a list of ideas can be really helpful. But again, it doesn't have to be like, this is this, let me go look at the chart. Okay, I should do this
Yeah.
one. We're just
Yeah. I
like,
need to do
okay,
that and maybe a more playful
yes,
man.
playful. Yeah. I like to just put my hands on my heart and say, what do you need right now, sweetie? And
Oh.
yeah, and something that's kind of like, kind of a stress reducer for me could be stressful to someone else. Really. So it's
Yeah.
more
I actually had this one, I had done this whole journey and then I came out, sounds so silly, but I had like on my list as like a shower as like a pain reducer, but I started calling it a joy enhancer
oh,
instead.
oh my gosh, I
And
love
I
that.
was like, it was the best. I was like, because now I'm not like, I'm trying to reduce my pain. I'm like, I'm just getting a little joy over here.
Okay, that is the best reframe. I love it. A joy
Yeah, good
enhancer.
one.
Because so much of the time we are like, I don't want this, I don't want this, and we're
Yeah,
focusing
it
on it,
was too
fighting
much.
it, and we're creating more of it. But when we're
Yeah,
like, I want more of this, that's why, yeah, even that emotion at the beginning, I was like, what do you want to feel? We spend very little time thinking about that, you know,
yeah,
or if we do, we're like, oh, I just want relief. I wish I had it, it's like,
yeah.
but yeah, joy enhancer. You guys write that down.
It's my
I'm
fave.
down too.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. You are so welcome. I saw there's some stuff in the chat, and there's a couple more people saying they need to leave soon too. I think I saw. Sorry, I'm just scrolling back through. Yeah. Larry, you there? You want to unmute?
Hi, so this is not Larry, this is Lisa. Larry is my husband.
Okay.
So I'm using his laptop right now.
Okay, yeah.
So I it's my first time as well. in this, and so far, I really appreciate you offering this to people.
Ah, my pleasure.
So I have a really big decision to make actually within hours. I I'm s- my problem is with sitting, and it's tailbone pain, and I I actually spoke with Dr. Schubiner, and he was 100% sure that it's MBS or TMS or neuroplastic, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've been doing this work for about 5 months, and I've had other MBS symptoms which have come and gone now that I have the education about it, which is great, except that the tailbone pain hasn't um it hasn't gone away. It hasn't gotten any improvement. And in fact, sometimes I think it's even getting worse. And part of that is because I had an X-ray
Mhm.
that showed a dislocation, a displaced tailbone joint. And I just cannot get that out of my mind, out of my head.
Mhm.
And I just can't seem to get to that 100% belief.
Mhm.
So my decision I have to make. So just a little more on that. When I'm, the pain almost starts like, the more I sit, the more painful it is, but it's almost like after, like,
Mm.
as I sit, then the pain starts, and then it just, I stand up again, and it just kind of builds and builds and builds. And even like the next day, it's like, that's when I seem to be suffering the most with pain. So my question or my decision I have to make is, my son is in university, and or just finished university, and his convocation is next week. And it's about a 4.5 hour flight to get there.
Mhm.
Currently the flights are booked leaving in 2 days on Sunday. And I'm not sure well, that I should even go, because my brain seems to be kind of like really, really anxious about this. And sitting for that long on a plane is kind of terrifying to me.
Yeah.
But so I risk I risk the physical pain of going, or the emotional pain of not going,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to be there for him. So
Okay, so can I say one thing about that story? Did you have the X-ray before you talked to Dr. Schubiner or after?
um, before, so he's aware of it.
Oh,
He
okay.
said that it means nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but my brain just keeps going, but what if, and what if, and what if?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Did we miss something,
The pain is just with sitting slash after sitting, right? Like other activities don't bother it. It's just basically sitting is the trigger. Yeah.
Mostly, yeah, like if I walk too far, then it'll kind of be sore.
Mm.
Um, but most definitely, like, I've been trying graded exposure,
Mhm.
um, and I'm just not getting any success with that. Like,
Yeah.
sitting equals pain, and pain, following, and it can knock me out. Like, I did go on a shorter flight, about an hour and a half, a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and it kind of knocked me out for, like, I took about 2 or 3 days to recover from that. So
Okay.
So
So
now
yeah.
I'm just not sure if I should do this
Yeah.
bigger. And
Well,
I don't want to have a really big setback as a result of this.
yeah. Fear of a setback,
Hmm.
hearing predictive coding, right? Like this
Yeah.
exactly like predictive coding. After, have there been any points where it's been less since you talked to Dr. Schubiner and you were 100% sure, or like any little detective for the opposite moments or any
Like,
times?
I go back and forth, and I write my, evidence list.
Mhm.
And yes, I can find little bits of evidence,
Mhm.
but with the evidence, it's always seems like there's a but, like I um I'm trying to think of an example. So he said, when this first happened, the pain would come and the pain would go. It was turning off and on.
Okay, yeah.
That's true. But then I think, but the pain was not affecting me because I wasn't sitting as much, so I
Okay,
questioned that.
okay, you've kind of just that link with sitting is just very, very strong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And and when Dr. Schubner saw you, he didn't say like, okay, it should be fine anytime other than sitting, right? We know it's
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe I didn't explain that, or I didn't think of that at the time of talking to him.
yeah.
Mm,
Well, we
yeah.
know if you believe it's 100% neuroplastic and he said it is and he talked to you, this is so fascinating too, you guys, right? Because sometimes we're like, if I just had the answer from Dr. Schubner, but I see this all the time where people are like, 2 years ago, I talked to Dr. Schubner. Some people talk to Dr. Sarno, back in the day. And then they're still like, but this pain, what if something's wrong with it? So one of the best pieces of evidence I can think of is that woman in The Way Out, well, in the Boulder back pain study, whose back was 70 degrees of scoliosis shaped like an S. And she got out of chronic pain by doing PRT in that study. I think it was only 8 weeks. They did this intensive PRT 2 times a week. And she didn't do anything to change her scoliosis. And there are cases and cases and cases. I bet if you even looked up, dislocated tailbones always painful, even on the internet, there'd be, some studies or some evidences. I've done that with Morton's neuroma or, all these different things that we're attributing our pain to something that's abnormal, physically when we go in with an X-ray or MRI. But it turns out many people who don't have that same pain have that very same structure. So how does that land so far?
Well, yeah, and it's kind of the same as what I've heard already.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you saying that. So
So the belief is there, but there's just so much fear that your brain is predicting that it's going to be really bad, and then it is. That's predictive coding,
I
right?
think so. Like
100%.
I don't hear much. I mean, I hear if it's a fracture, it's not MBS, and if it's, the list of what is not. But I'm like, but I don't hear anything about that dislocation, like that
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
So I guess
Yeah.
my biggest question here today is I'm just trying to make a decision about this trip, and I know you can't tell me yes or no for sure,
Right.
but how
Yeah.
should I
Well,
approach this? Like, how should I?
definitely right now, it
Mm.
sounds like there's so much fear that I could predict what's going to happen, right? Like, and here's one more point, just for everyone, and especially in this case, when you have pain that comes on after and gets really bad after, and you have, this neuroplastic pain, that is from the fear of the pain, not from the activity, right? So if for me, I had digestive things. And so I had to train my brain to know it wasn't the food that I just ate that gave my stomach that sensation. It was my stress that did it. And my, predictions. When I thought about even drinking coffee, my stomach would knot up, and get tight. And so then I knew, oh, I have prediction about that. So maybe what would be best to do, because you're going to be the best one to make this decision, but making it from a fear-based state, from a, nervous system state is not going to go well. So the best thing you can do is get a little calmer about the situation, kind of calm your nervous system. And then I think that's the best way I can help you. And then you can make your decision. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
so
So we'll do something
basically-
together. Oh, sorry.
okay.
Yeah. You're like, what do you mean? Did you have a question? Did I cut you off?
No, that's okay. I was just like, is it better to, if I feel a whole lot of anxiety about it, and I actually feel pain just thinking about it,
Okay, hold on.
Do we
Maybe
feel
not,
like this is
right?
going to make
Know what that means?
things a whole lot worse? And I might just not, is my brain just not ready? Is this gonna overwhelm my brain?
Well, let's ask that question again
Okay,
after we do this exercise together.
sure,
Okay? How about that?
okay,
Okay, because yeah, what I was saying is like it's just hard to make a decision when you're in that fear-based state. So hopefully with this, I can help you a little bit, and then you can decide, you know, with a little more confidence. But yeah, definitely that's a hard, you know, thing to decide, because then if you don't go, there's that pain as well, right? Like you said.
yeah.
So let's go ahead and are you in a place where you could close your eyes and settle into your seat or chair? You're probably not sitting, lay down.
I'll lay down, sure.
Wait, are you already sitting?
I'm laying down now.
Okay. So, um, yeah, so just go ahead and lay down so that you're more comfortable. And when you were sitting, you were having some pain, like when we were talking about that stuff and thinking about it more. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And before that, were you having much pain or no?
No, because I hadn't been sitting very much.
What? Wait, why did you just say that? That's so funny, right? Because we were talking about something and you got pain and then you related it to the sitting still. So this is how we want it. Like the brain is so convinced these two things are interlocked, but we want to like tell the brain it's not because, have you ever sat and then you maybe you're distracted, you watch something that is funny, you talk to a friend, something, and even though you were sitting longer and it hurt before, it didn't. If not, just watch for it, but you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and I have tried that, but no, still pain the next day.
Okay, well, maybe
And
even
afterwards.
just if you want to just kind of have that detective like attitude of like, what if it's not? What if it's not the longer I sit? Because that will just open the door just a crack for your brain to just be like, okay, I really believe it's this way, to like, what if it's not? And even that can be a huge step in the right direction to getting your pain to go away. Okay.
Okay, I'll try that.
Okay. Because I believe you. I believe that every time, you know, you've noticed it, it's been that same pattern and your brain has probably predicted it and created it. So it's like, yeah, I'm right. I've done it every time for you, you know? But we want to just be like, but brain, maybe chairs aren't dangerous. Maybe sitting's not dangerous. And I've had people that when they, you know, do some coaching for a little while, they, you know, are sitting and we talk about something and they get that same exact pain that they used to get. And they finally realize it wasn't from the sitting, it was from that stressful emotion that I felt, you know, and before I just had this whole, you know, it's hard to tell when you have that pattern. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to you just getting comfortable, closing your eyes, and I want you to just imagine that you're sitting. So imagine you could see yourself sitting in a chair and see if you can even imagine that it's been a while, like what, an hour? What is usually your you know, time that you feel like is unsafe?
Well, 30 minutes for sure. I
Really?
start feeling pain, but lately it's even been 10 minutes. Like I feel like I'm going backwards, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. And that's like also not consistent with a normal healing of an injury, right? Like I'm assuming it's been more than 3 to 6 months, but like,
Yeah.
you know, we know that things heal. They may heal in a dislocated, deformed way and not create chronic pain, right? Like
Okay.
a woman's scoliosis. Okay.
Okay.
So imagine yourself sitting and imagine that it's been, you know, an hour. Or imagine that you have to go on that flight and you sit on the plane and just see what happens in your body. Just see if anything, if there's any awareness or tightness sensation as you're just imagining that. How does that feel?
Yeah, I do start to feel sort of anxiety.
Mhm.
in, a little tailbone-ish area.
Anxiety in the tailbone-ish area.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a new one. I like it. I like it. Yeah. So that area, like, what? Tenses up, feel sensation.
Yes,
You feel
yeah,
sensation. Yeah.
kind of like, almost like a tingly kind of feeling, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So if we just unpack what just happened there, do you realize this is a really good sign for you that that connection is a lot in your brain, if not,
Yeah,
yeah. And you guys, this is called graded exposure. I should have said, if anyone wants to do this along, can close your eyes, you can feel into your body, imagine yourself doing that activity, imagine yourself eating the food, imagine yourself, whatever it is, and just see how your body reacts. Just see if there's sometimes it's not the actual sensation that you get, but it's like an awareness. Any of that shows that your brain is thinking this is dangerous. So it is creating these symptoms. Okay, so this is a really good sign when that happens. And then what we want to do is, if we can, try to imagine that same thing, but with gratitude, with you're already over it. Maybe it's a year or two down the road. You don't have it anymore. You're sitting at the beach. You realize it's been, 4 hours, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so nice that I don't ever have to worry about that anymore. You're happy, you're joyful, or maybe you feel relief, or you feel calm, or you feel any other emotion that you would feel if you were sitting and you could sit longer than half an hour, and there's just like, it's just not even in your mind anymore about like how long I sit or not. You're just a normal person. If you sit too long, a normal person would get up, right? You watch kids, they get up, they get down, but you're not like, oh my gosh, I can't do this because of sit. You're just like, oh, I'm just experiencing more joy, doing things that bring me joy. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine sitting and that positive emotion?
yes, it's very subtle, like it's quite a subtle distinction. But I guess, increased sensation that I felt when it was the worst case scenario, it's less than that now, so,
Mhm.
so,
Okay.
so
So
that, yeah.
okay, so actually your sensation is a little less. And when you were imagining it, could you kind of get into that visual of you someday not having this pain with sitting and feeling so happy about it?
Yeah, I could get into that visual.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
it seemed like, so this has been going on for years, so it seems like I almost forget what it feels like to just get this sit so
Okay.
easily.
That's another check on the box of like, this is neuroplastic, right? It's like so even hard to believe that it could change because it's gone on for years. And right, it's like those neural pathways are so strong that this is dangerous. And pain is a danger signal.
Yeah,
We doing this graded exposure, starting with just visualizing it in your mind, is the first step that you can be totally safe and start this process of detaching, sitting with that fear and pain, right? Showing your brain these are two separate things. I linked them because brains are good at making patterns and connecting them to what's physically going on, not stress wise, right? And it makes sense with everything we're taught from the medical perspective. It just like emotions don't play into it. So, but really doing it in this safe way, and then, being that detective for the opposite, I think that will really help. Now, I know that doesn't help with your decision. This is kind of for everyone too, that graded exposure. But if you just close your eyes and think about that plane, going on the plane and going to see him in that 4 hours, what intensity of feeling? It could be anxiety, or it could be anxiety in the tailbone area. Those neuroplastic sensations. But yeah, when you think about that, how from 0 to 10, how intense is that?
Oh boy, it still stirs up anxiety
Yeah.
or that feeling.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's one more thing I want to do with you. I know I'm taking a lot of time with you, but you have this decision to make. And again, this is one for everyone. I have one of my latest podcast episodes has this so that you can do it, just anytime you want to. This is a technique I recently learned that is so, so, so helpful to take down that intense emotion that you just feel in your body when you have a trigger, when you think of something or something comes up for you. I think you know what I mean. You can probably think of a few things in your life that you're like, oh, that fills me with anxiety to think about it. Maybe it's a doctor's office or right, something like that. So I want you to, did you say from 0 to 10 how strong that was?
It's probably about a 6.
A 6. Okay, then I want you to open your eyes, look at a spot in front of you. If you're looking at the computer, don't stare at the screen, but find something else on the wall or out the window or on the ceiling if you're laying down. Find a spot that you can stare at and focus on, and actually feel that focusing of your eyes as you focus in on it. And then I want you to let your eye gaze soften. So start to notice more and more of what's on the sides of that object. And then starting to notice more and more of the sides of the space you're in and the space that's to the side of you. And just keep that focus forward, but start imagining maybe even that you can sense that space that's behind you. See if you can almost not see it, but just kind of like feel that it's there. And then just check in with your body. How does that feel?
Feels okay. I'm sorry, I don't really understand what the objective is of staring at the spot.
Oh, this is a technique to calm your nervous system. It's called peripheral vision. And since you have this connection with thinking of the flight and fear, it's to take down the fear.
Okay.
So how did that go?
Yeah, it's lowering maybe a little bit, like to maybe a
Okay, so
4.
did you look at that spot and did you like try to open your vision, or were you too worried about why I was doing it?
Well, sorry, I still don't quite understand why I'm staring at this spot, but that's okay. You've taken a lot of time with me. I don't want to keep taking your time, but
Okay. Okay. I was just trying to help you with making your decision to get the fear around the flying a little calmer. Because when you're a 6 out of 10, it's going to be hard to make that decision. But if you're worried about taking up time and what we're doing and why and stuff, then maybe, it's okay. We don't have to do it. I just wanted to help you so that, because the best place to make a decision from is not your fear-based state. So
so I'm
what
focusing on the spot to change my thinking, to kind of,
No. So
Oh.
do you know about like calming the nervous system?
yeah,
So it's one of the tools.
okay,
This is called peripheral vision. You might have heard of it. The
yeah,
peripheral
okay.
vision is the sides. So this is kind of changing the focus, actually literally changing the focus, because you're changing the focus of your eyes, and it's getting your brain changing the focus from the worried state, from the fear-based state. And when we do it, several rounds of it, just one, it just takes a couple minutes, then you can think of that thing without 6 out of 10 fear. Maybe it's even a 0. So it's a very cool process. It's very fast usually, but
Okay, that makes more sense, and I thank everybody on the call for going through this with me. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And thank you, Betsy. It's
Of
really
course.
great.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. So maybe you could use that technique. I'll probably do it again on the call with someone else. So just think of the airplane and that ride and try that process again, because it's going to be good to demonstrate with someone. Someone else is going to love it. You'll like it, I promise. Um, and and then when you have a little more clarity, a little more calm, you'll make a better decision. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Betsy.
You're so
Appreciate it.
welcome. Okay, I'm gonna look at this real quick. Well, go to the next person, and I think it's the person from Greece, so I actually have no idea how to pronounce those letters. Oh, and Daria is going through that same thing with sitting. And had a good success story you should read in the chat. Okay. So, person from Greece, from Cyprus.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
How do you
Hi.
say your name?
My name is Athena. It's
Oh,
like
Athena.
Athens,
Yeah,
which is the
Athena.
capital of Greece. Yes. Um. So English is my second language, so it will be a little bit more difficult for me.
Yeah.
Just be patient, all of you.
Sure. You're welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. I really enjoy your effort you put on this session with us. I'm like I would like to ask. It's been a long journey for me. I am 10 years bedridden, so I just found out about this mind body connection. Let's say I am pretty sure that I have TMS pain. I have a lot of medical labels all this year, like fibromyalgia and all this neuropathy pain, failed back surgery. So all these labels, and I done this evidence sheet about my pain, and I'm like 90% sure that all of my pain is a TMS pain because I have like neural pain in both of my sides, and I have all these um, traumas in my life that afterwards I had TMS pain. It was I done the connection,
Okay.
but I have the question now. I have also a genetic disease,
Okay.
so this one gives me like 10% of this doubt in my mind that it might be from the genetic disease or this pain that I have. So
Is that what the genetic disease usually causes? Those types of symptoms?
I have like a disease that is in the blood. All genetic disease are blood, but one of the symptoms might be trigger some pain, but it will not trigger like muscle pains and all these things that I have due to fibromyalgia pain. So it's in my head. I done all this research and all these because I done coaching as well.
Right.
But I still have this doubt,
Yeah.
especially the like flare days, which is like the most difficult times that we have. And I try to soothe myself and give all these message, like save messages and all these. I do a lot of work like meditation, breathing, like inner child work, all these things. But especially the flare days are pretty much difficult with the doubt that,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sometimes it doesn't feel true to tell yourself you're safe if
yeah.
you have a doubt and think that the pain is coming from maybe something that isn't neuroplastic.
Yeah. So it is a little bit complicated because
Mhm.
I know that I have TMS pain for sure, but because it's the genetic disease there, like I have this paper from this
Yeah.
rare disease, it's like doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to notice. It's mainly when you're in pain. It's mainly on those flare days that you think that. And what we know now about genetics, it's, it's in every cell of the body. We have our genes. We have genes that are either expressed or not. They can be turned on and off. So what we even know now, I even had one client that she was tested for, I think it was like some mold allergies, I believe, some things, and they actually tested a certain gene and it was turned on. And then later they retested and the expression of that gene was turned off. So what we know is that, there are, if it's like Down syndrome, trisomy 21, like those genes aren't going to, they have an extra chromosome. That's not going to change something from birth, but something that, is very highly suspect of, pain that developed later, pain that, you had a traumatic events, maybe some in your childhood, or maybe even some little T traumas, a bully in school could even be something that, you have a more high guard nervous system later in life and have pain. So how does that sound so far?
Yeah. I have a like big T's like in my life
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
have,
Okay.
yeah.
So going back to the gene thing, it's like, the genes, it's possible that in a more safe feeling environment, you're not going to have, some of the pain, it sounds like, isn't even caused by that genetic disease. It's not consistent with what that genetic disease causes.
Yeah.
And the way that Dr. Schubiner likes to explain it, or like something that I've heard him offer, is like, I'm healing, instead of saying I'm 100% healthy. If you don't believe it, you could say I'm healing. I'm
Yeah.
I'm becoming more and more safe. No, it doesn't feel like it when you're in a flare. And
No.
that
No way.
sometimes you can't really talk yourself out of it. You have to just like go distract, do something else, be really kind to yourself that day. If I'm have some symptoms, usually what I do is very little. If I have a coaching call and I feel like I can do it, I'll just do that and then go back to bed. And I know that it's going to be over soon, because it's just, I think of it as I'm expanding. I did something that challenged myself. And this is just a normal reaction to my nervous system, like getting more and more regulated and growing, is that I have these moments sometimes where I have some symptoms and then I just react to it differently. I mean, making it sound easy, right? But
Yeah,
it
I
gets
know.
less and less believable as you gather more evidence. So you're kind of in this process of, you've gathered a lot of evidence, but the more, that you keep applying this, it'll be easier and easier to believe. And then when you have a random pain, then you're not like, oh no. But does that help as far as just giving you some
Yeah,
frame?
I love I write it down. I love the quote that I am healing, because when
Yeah.
I say yes, when I say I'm okay, I don't feel okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yes.
so
Yeah.
I am healing. It's like a process, and I'm healing now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm healing. I'm just in a growth phase. When snakes are like shedding their skin, and it's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm just in a growth phase. There was something that, there was something that is a trigger, and I'm teaching my nervous system now that it's safe, and so it won't trigger me in the future. Another one I've heard that doesn't even have to do with if you're healthy or not is like, oh, this is a cue to slow down, or this is a cue to breathe, or this is a sign to be compassionate with myself.
I really love all of this. Because we are different human beings, everybody, we have to find something that like connect with us.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will make you feel more safe if you're like, oh, this is my cue to be compassionate for myself. I'm gonna, call a friend right now and whatever it is, I'm gonna watch this,
Mhm.
not beat myself up. I'm gonna, so
Yeah.
that will help you feel more safe than I'm safe. I'm safe. No, I don't know. What if I'm not?
Yeah, but
That's
especially in flare days, nothing.
Yeah.
It's like if you say I'm okay, but I don't feel okay. If you say I'm safe, but I don't feel safe,
Yeah.
because it triggers fear, the pain. So you have to find something that connects with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one too, when you said that, it's I'm hurt but not harmed.
Yeah. Love
Sometimes
that.
if you like it, use that. If not, you can just leave it, but hurt but not harmed. Um, I also really love trust the process. Trust the
Mm,
process. For me, I like it. But
yeah.
yeah, like you said, you have to find what works for you.
Yeah, and something a little bit more. I tried journal, but it really, 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 I really, really hate it. So,
Oh,
yeah, I know, because maybe I'm like more. I am a painter, so I like painting more to express myself. And I hear all these success stories with journal, and it's like I tried a lot, but I can't do it. I
mm,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. I've had people get better without ever journaling, without ever, doing certain
Yeah.
things, without ever addressing their trauma. I thought one lady, she said, "Oh, I have so much trauma from the past." I was like, "Okay, we'll get to it." She was coaching 6 months with me. We never got to it, but her back got better in like 2 months. And then we're just like
Wow.
coaching on other stuff. But that was a different case, right? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Usually when we, have some traumas and capital T traumas, there is something to address from that, which is how the nervous system is reacting. How did it learn to react then? Did it go into freeze? And how is that showing up in my life now? How can I get out of that freeze now? So you don't really have to go back to every single little
Mhm.
thing. But anyway, that's a different subject too. But
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely do what is calming to your nervous system, right?
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
trust that. And then I've even had things change where like I was really into journaling for a while, and then I got into tapping, and then I got
Hmm.
to what else did I do? Dancing, So like
Yeah.
that would be different for some people, right? Some people would hate dancing. I might not love painting as much, but right. So find
Yeah.
what works for you.
I find like sitting, and when I feel all this emotion, like sadness or angry, this hard emotion, I just do like a meditation for my inner child. And
Mhm.
then I just remember the last time I was in my childhood, that I was very angry or sad. And then I just feel compassion for this little child, that it was hurt and all of this. And
Yes.
I like this process more than even like journal. I don't know if
That's
I
good.
like it more. It
Good.
connect with me. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Do that all day.
So thank you,
Yeah.
thank you so much for all your time. And I hope everybody here in this session find relief and find like peace and everything. So I
Aw.
have to go. It's 10 o'clock, and I have to go to my kids here. So good
Okay.
night from Cyprus. Thank you a lot.
Thanks, Athena.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that. Okay. What a sweetie. Okay, let's go to Anya.
Hello, Betsy. Thank you. We met many months ago, probably a year ago. We had a session online,
Oh, nice.
and I've lapsed, and I
Oh,
realised
yeah.
that I've allowed the symptoms and the exhaustion to take over, and my joy has gone, and I'm on this hamster wheel of having to work and pressure, not being able to go out.
Mhm.
And I realized how unhappy I am. I only realized this by going away for a few days, like, oh, no, things aren't good, because the pain's really, really full-time bad.
Hmm.
I couldn't even do tracking at the moment. It's so bad.
Mm.
and there's a lot of pressure all over my head. And yeah, the whole joy. And I'm like, I'm waiting. I can't go out. I feel too ill. I can't go out in the evening. I can't do this. I've got to wait till I feel better. So it's self-defeating talk.
Mm.
I know that, but
Mhm.
it's like, how do I get out of it? Now I'm recognizing I'm in that pattern, and you know, been back here for a while. I want to change it now.
Mhm.
So that's why, and I saw you doing the call. It's like, right, I need to
Yeah.
take some action and change my thoughts.
Mhm. Well, if you just had to guess, I know you don't know, or else you wouldn't be here, but if you like had to guess something that's like getting in your way or the biggest factor for you, what do you think it is?
The biggest factor getting in my way. Oh, I think the pressure I put on myself,
Yeah, that
maybe.
sounds like probably a lot of us here. That's the way I used to love to approach things. Yeah, yeah. How are you, how, you know, those 6 Fs, those different ways Dr. Schubiner says that we can react to pain that are natural but increase pain. There's like focusing on it, fighting it, being frustrated with it, trying to figure it out. Probably a couple more, one more. Um, how do you feel like you, how do you feel like you relate to your pain when you do have those symptoms and notice them?
Oh, definitely frustrated.
Mhm.
Um,
Frustrated.
and
Yeah.
I'm annoyed with myself.
Yeah.
It's like, really,
Yeah.
after all this work
Yeah.
I've done on myself, I'm not
Yes.
feeling better, and I know how to meditate and get connected
Yes.
to my heart.
Yeah.
So frustrated, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I totally get that. Especially, you know, like when I started doing this and I started teaching this, and then I was like, you know, what does that mean about me? If I get this kind of, I probably can't even teach this. This probably isn't even true. You know, I just would get into that.
Mm.
Right. So this is so common for those of us that, you know, we just want to be the best we can be, but
Mm.
it turns into like really self-critical and urgent and pressure and what's wrong with you? And yeah. And then
Yeah,
of course that prolongs our pain.
yeah, and then like all this sadness comes up too. Now I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, how does that feel in your body if you just close your eyes and feel that sadness
Um,
coming up? Let's let it be here. Like, what are the sensations in your body when you feel sad?
so a little heaviness in my shoulders, like a little weight on my shoulders,
Mhm.
and just like unbearable pain in my heart.
In your heart, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And the
but
sadness.
yeah, that's the sadness is in my heart, that pain.
Mhm. And it's a heaviness. And how else could you describe it? Are there any other words you could say? It's heavy.
Um,
Does it have a movement or a shape?
well, right in my head where the pain is, it feels very black and
Mm-hmm.
dense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about if you try breathing into that black, dense area? So you just close your eyes and take a breath in and imagine the breath going to that area. Maybe it just bounces off, or maybe it kind of gets into that area. Maybe it lightens it, you know, if it's like a white light, maybe it helps those molecules spread apart a little more so they dissipate. Just see how that goes, like a science experiment. We don't have to have a certain outcome. We're just like, if you add the breath, what happens? How does that feel?
Um, yeah, I can feel it lightening a bit, but there's just this overwhelming sadness that I could just go off camera and sob, which
Mhm.
maybe I need to do.
Yeah, I mean, definitely crying is one way to
Mm,
release tension,
mm,
to
mm,
process emotion, and to relax your, calm your nervous system.
mm.
And, if the sadness, um, so that came up when you were thinking about what?
About being in pain all the time and how hard my life is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's normal that there would be some sadness about that. And the way we can express it is tuning into it, feeling it, describing it. Oh, it's this place in my heart, maybe
Mm,
breathing into it. And then we can also know the thoughts about it keep generating that sadness too, right? So the
okay.
thoughts of like, oh, I've been in pain so long, this is so bad. So
Mm,
I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but there are times that we can on purpose also turn to other things and turn to other
yeah.
thoughts, and right. And um maybe even some of those thoughts like, okay, I'm healing, I'm working on these things, this has brought me some new challenges, and maybe that doesn't quite feel true because you haven't seen the progress yet since this flare. But like, even sometimes I like that thought, like I've mentioned before, the flare is a sign that I'm evolving. It's a sign that something new
Mm,
is coming forth in me, like being produced.
mm,
you know. um so yeah, as far as those sensations and the criticism of yourself and the hurried like action, and sometimes just at least understanding that, talking about it, describing it like we were doing, like
mm,
that can
mm.
help. Like I said at the beginning, the vocabulary, just
Yeah.
knowing, okay, I have a critical self, voice, and I'm blaming myself for
Yeah.
having pain, like I've done something wrong,
Mm,
versus, oh, this is a normal, ebb and flow. Like, what do you need right now, sweetie? Yeah,
mm. Yeah. 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 No, I think it'll be good to do the I am healing
I am healing.
and tune in what I need now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Mm, doing
yeah.
any kind of, when it's really bad pain and it feels really constant, and if there's any distraction type of things you can do, and that distractions could include like putting heat or ice on it or things like that. It's like training wheels for your nervous system to get you feeling better, to your brain doesn't have to do all of the work, right? Like even
Mm,
placebos, they work so well because you're taking a sugar pill. So anything that kind of helps get you in the calm, safe space. I know
mm.
one client that like, she curled up on the bed with the couch and ate an oatmeal cookie, watched a movie, right? Like that's the kind of attitude you want to have with this, is like, okay, it's like when I get sick, I'm just going to treat myself really nice for a few
Yeah.
days. And I know that, if after a few days of this cold, it's going to go away and I'll get back to work then.
Yeah. I think for me, I've been in pain for so long, it's hard to see that I'm going to be well and that
Yeah.
this is going to pass because
Yeah.
it's decades and
Yeah.
I've got in a particularly bad cycle right now, I think. Well, I won't, not bad, but a painful cycle right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like when we're in that painful cycle, in a flare, usually we go into freeze, we catastrophize. We're like, it's just been like this for so long, it's probably never going to get
Okay.
better. That's normal when you're in a flare to just think that way.
Okay.
So even just recognizing, oh, those kind of thoughts, that just happens when I'm in freeze, is like, okay, but I might be different. And this is when I always do, is like, if I've tried this hard and I still can't get it, then why
Mm.
even try? Right? Do you guys have that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not
Definitely.
going to work for me, right? But
Yeah.
your brain, like in that state, it forgets all the times that there was that one day that you didn't have a symptom, or there were 2 months or whatever it was, right? It's like, instead of saying, okay, I had like 3 flares over this year, it's like I've had, pain all year long, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's really good to remind me that I'm back to catastrophizing and freeze. And I don't
Yeah.
have to believe that voice that just goes
Yes.
on and on. It's like, no. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you guys a quick example of freeze from my own life because I think it illustrates it so well. I was in freeze once and I was getting coached and I was just saying how everything was bad. My business, my family, my relationships, like my health, like everything. I was like, everything's bad. And I teach a yoga class. So she asked, how was your yoga class tonight? And I said, I had 10 people, which normally is good. That's my goal, is to get 10 people. And I said, this just came to me. I wasn't trying to say it. I just said, I had 10 people, but I always like play the same music and do the same stuff. I bet they're getting bored with it. Right? No one had complained. No one, people had thanked me at the end of class. But
Yeah,
because I was in freeze, my brain found something negative about it to spin, and it just felt true to me. And literally until I said it out loud, I was like, oh wait, that doesn't even make sense. But I really was just like, I'm a loser all over in life. I can't do anything right. I always do the same things. People hate it. They might like the consistency. Some people like to listen to the same meditation every night. So, does that help? Just seeing like, okay, don't believe everything your brain is telling you when you're in a flare.
Yeah, definitely that helps.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can write a different story.
Write a different story. Exactly. And when you're too far in it and you can't do that, don't beat yourself up. This is the time to just be super gentle, super sweet with myself. And then you see how you started coming out of that. And now you're like,
Yeah.
I can write a
Yeah.
different story. And that sounds genuine. You're not forcing it. You're not like, I
No,
live my life. I'm a healthy person. You're like,
it's like getting that awareness, isn't it? That's so important.
it's the awareness.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That's really helpful.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
good. Good. So glad. All right. Next we have iPhone. I don't know who this is, but your hand is up and it says iPhone is your name. So you might know who you are. Yeah. We have Andy next too. We could go to Andy. Or you might have walked away from your phone or something.
Oh, hi. Yeah, hi there.
Hi.
Hi, really nice to meet you, and thank you for doing this. I just came across your podcast actually,
Great.
in fact this week, so I was just listening to it and then saw
Nice.
you doing this, so I kind of jumped on. So I've used this work to heal from chronic fatigue, and I don't have any fear about it now. I don't have, I don't see myself. I don't manage my energy in the same way. I mean, I look after myself and I'm listen to cues and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've had a back issue for 30 years, and I don't think I ever. But I kind of didn't realize I could use the work for that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of like I realized that there is still this. I don't have the belief that I have around the chronic fatigue, and I want to try and get that belief with my back. And in fact, I got in touch with Howard Schubiner
You
and
did.
just emailed him because I thought, if I can just, exactly what you said to somebody earlier on, that you kind of want that reassurance, I guess.
Yeah. You want it, and then you get it, and then you're like, yeah, but he didn't know.
Exactly that. It was so funny because I said to myself, it was great. He said categorically, sacroiliac joint.
Oh yeah.
It's not a, it's TMS. I promise you it's TMS.
Yeah.
And I read it and just felt this euphoria. And then I went, yeah, but
yeah.
and the
Tricky
thing
brain.
I have is that I don't believe anything's drastically wrong now.
Yeah.
But I have like muscle stuff. Like, for example, the thing that happens that really throws me kind of for a spin is I'll get piriformis kind of tightness, and it just makes sitting really uncomfortable, or I'll get this thing where I sort of bend down and it's like a girdle goes round my pelvis, and then I'm like literally like 100-year-old woman sort of hobbling along. And that's always really scared me. And it happened a few weeks ago, and I kind of tried to meet it much more like not freaking out.
Mhm.
And after about sort of 4 days, I did actually have I went to see my physical therapist,
Mhm.
and he reassured me that nothing massive was going on,
Good.
which again gave me some confidence that it was
Good.
neuroplastic. I think one of the well, there's two things that I wanted to ask you about. One of them is that the problem with that is I still have so much fear around it happening,
Mhm.
because it just, even though I'm hoping to react different to it, it's bloody uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And say, it's often around holidays or events, and then it's like, the bottom line is, if I went away for 5 days and it happened on the first day, that
Mhm.
would ruin our 5 days away.
Mhm.
And so there is still this pent up anxiety and anticipation, and please don't let it happen. And
Yeah.
I know how all of that
Yeah.
feeds into the fear and
Yeah.
predictive coding and all of that. And so an example of this is, I have seen this physical therapist for years, and I found it really useful, and he's got me into a place where I feel really confident now. But the weird thing is, I've now become anxious about those treatments, because
Mm.
often in a treatment, he will unsettle things
Mhm.
and I'll feel discomfort afterwards. And
Mm.
then I get angry because I feel like, you've upset it.
Yeah.
And so I'm in this weird thing of like wanting to see him because it's a good general thing to do, but also being in a
Why-
position of
why
like,
would-
it's
why-
undermining my belief.
Yeah. Why is it a good general thing to do? I'm just curious. I mean, I'm a
Um,
physical therapist, but in your specific
well,
way.
so he does something called a matsu, which is quite a whole body. It's very gentle massage, but it's, does things with organs, and it's it. I've always believed it's helped, and I feel like what he, yeah, this is my problem, is that he is still a physical therapist. So there is an element of him reinforcing the idea that there's something physical going on. But
Yeah.
because he's the holistic approach, he's also saying to me, you don't need to be coming this regularly, and
He's saying,
there isn't anything fundamental going on, and you are in a good place. It's never been close to going out or anything
yeah.
like that. So
Okay.
he wants to give me the confidence,
Ah, interesting. Okay.
which is nice, but
Yeah.
I want to be able to go and have a treatment, and if I feel sensations afterwards, go, okay, well, of course, it'd be awful if I went to it and never felt any different. Then it would be like, he's not done anything.
Yeah.
And it's just, I guess it's how do I deal at this point with the anxiety and the fear. And I really liked in one of your podcasts I listened to, you did what you did earlier in the session with the somatic tracking.
Oh, good.
And I've done that with
Yeah.
the pain. It never occurred to me to do it with the anxiety,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
really liked,
Yeah.
because it was like,
Yeah.
I've never graded exposure to the anxiety in that way.
Yes.
And so I guess that's what you might say to me to do, that if I'm anxious about having a treatment,
Mhm.
is to imagine doing the treatment and it going well and things.
Ah. Yeah.
I just wonder if there's more I can do to
Yeah. Yeah.
try and get away from the fear.
Yeah. Well, let's do the peripheral vision thing that I was going to do earlier, if you're open to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anyone else is listening that has a trigger, something that's scary, right? Something that causes you anxiety like this, then I want you to close your eyes, think of that thing. So go ahead and think of the treatment. Think of, how it's felt before, or what your fear is about it. Just feel how intense that is from 0 to 10, and just notice that in your body. What number would you give that?
I can get to a 6 or 7 quite quickly.
If you thought about it a little more, would it even increase from there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I can really get into it.
Yeah. We could get ourselves up to a 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to not look at the screen. You're going to look at something that you can stare at that's, a little distance from you. Could be out the window, something on your wall, corner of a picture, whatever it is, just focus in on it. And this, shows our eye, you feel those eye muscles, maybe you kind of focus in, and then you soften your gaze, you open up your awareness to what's on the sides of that, more opening to what's on the sides of you. As you still stare forward, you're just taking in more and more of the space. You're in the present moment, noticing what's around you, and maybe even see if you can sense what's behind you as you still stare forward. And if people are having a hard time with it, sometimes just that blowing out the mouth, like that deep sigh out, can help too while you do this. How does that feel, Andy?
I think that's it. What I find is doing that, I was leaning forward. Do you know what I
Interesting.
mean? I'm kind of all leant forward, and as I do the peripheral, I feel myself just kind of leaning back into my body a bit and my breath a bit. I think that's that kind of actually somatic body thing is something I've really been missing, because
Yeah.
I'm very in my head,
Yeah.
and I'm very good at being in my head,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's probably the bit I've been missing, if
Yeah.
I'm honest.
Well, let's keep this going, because there's a little, we can do a couple more rounds of this, and this is part of the process. So I want you to actually just close your eyes again and think of that same trigger. Think of it just like you did before. Think about the fear, the anxiety, and just notice how that feels this time.
Yeah, I feel like I'm sort of I'm slightly lit away from it in a weird way. I don't, because I'm physically feeling more leant back.
So from 0 to
So
10, like, what is it like?
yeah, so I guess I'm not accessing it very easily, which I guess means that I'm
Yeah,
sort of
a little blurrier,
I'm
hard to feel.
yeah, a little bit blurrier.
That's how I feel like when I do this. It's like, can't quite remember why I was so upset about this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that was
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. And I do this
and I
little,
think, oh, I must be, and I like, I'm gonna get it back,
oh yeah, yeah.
but then it's like I'm forcing it. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
aware I'm creating it.
Yeah. So yeah, your brain has like made this connection. We're just trying to separate those two, beliefs. And so now go ahead and look at that spot again. So hopefully you guys are able to do this along. So you're looking at a spot, start to open up the periphery, start to notice what's on the sides of you. Just notice how your eyes can soften and your gaze can soften. And all of this tells the nervous system we're safe. We can be right here, right now. We don't have to think about the future or past. Just notice what's beside you, around you, maybe even behind you. You can see if you can notice what's above and below you. For extra challenge, it's just kind of playing with being in the present moment, shifting your focus literally of your eyes. And how does that feel, Andy?
It is really calming. I think
Calming.
I'm going to be really interested to try it when I'm activated. I think because at the moment I'm not in pain.
Yeah.
I'm having quite a good patch.
Yeah.
And so my putting myself into the anxious state is very much a head thing, not a all body experience
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I will be really interested to see. I've got a
Yeah.
treatment coming up, how, to actually employ that and see
Yeah.
at that state. A few weeks ago I couldn't get myself, I'm really proud I got myself out of the door to go on holiday.
Yeah.
How I did, I don't quite know. I did it through little tiny steps.
Yeah.
But I quite like to try this in that situation.
Exactly. Whatever it is, like I was going to do it with the airplane. That's just such a good one, because a lot of people have fear with flying, even if they don't have
Yeah.
fear about sitting. There's all the other things you can be afraid about, but we can just get these really fearful, body sensations, even thinking about the thing. And if you just close your eyes, and we don't have to do the whole process again and again, but if this time when you close your eyes, just to compare as you think about going to get a treatment, as you think about, you know, if you want to do that or not, and how the fear is about afterwards. How does that feel this time?
I think it does feel better. I think the little voice in my head is
Mhm.
now going, oh, but that's because you're not actually feeling the pain. Because I remember when I had a treatment a couple of months ago, I was in a really good place. And I went in going, I'm fine. If he upsets it and I'm sore afterwards, I'll be fine. And he did. It was sore afterwards, and I felt like I met it much more calmly.
Yeah.
But then I had something that I had to be good for, had to, and so I went back to see him, and it unsettled it a bit more. And then I got spun into this cycle of pain, fear,
Yeah.
off on a, and at that point, I just don't know whether
Yeah.
I will deal with it as well as I'm dealing with it right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Even though it was like more when you thought about it first and it's less now, your brain is
Yeah.
coming up with excuses. But I would just offer that, you know, you can question whether this is really helping in the long run. A lot of us will do these things that are painful because we think there should be a good result from them. And maybe once there was, and that treatment, I'm not familiar with it, but it's not necessarily in line with, you know, the mind body work. It's not like something research based that I've heard of that like is a way to get your nervous
No, I think
or
I
something.
think that it's probably, it is still the fear that that I'm managing it, that, do you know what I mean? It's coming from a place of um preventative. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's what I'm
Because I'm
questioning.
so much better than I was, but maybe I'm better
But you're
because I've
attributing it
been
to
doing
that.
this work.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, you're
Um,
welcome to do whatever kind of treatments you guys feel like are right for you. And, you know, because placebos even are super helpful. And Dr. Schubiner
mm.
says he's even a placebo doctor, helping people believe they can get better, you know, from nothing else. But if you're going into something with a lot of fear, generally not a good way to approach it. You want to take things that are less fearful and
Yeah,
where it's not even evidence that that's what's making you get so much better overall, you know, like
yeah,
I would just advise
yeah,
that you could just keep questioning that. Some people they do go to physical therapy because you know they have a belief that people should just be a certain level of strength and they're not there yet. But yeah, if you're thinking you need to do a treatment in order to feel better, that's really not what the mind body work is about.
yeah. That's
Um,
the thing. I want to get away from that and
yeah,
just
yeah,
go because it's a
yeah,
nice thing to do, because it's
yeah.
like getting a massage and
It's
it's
like a
kind of,
massage.
I'm taking care of myself, like I go to the dentist or,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
which is questionable because like how is taking care of yourself like putting yourself into pain to work through? Like it's
Yeah,
like sadistic. It's
yeah,
a hard way to take care
true.
of yourself where there are easier, gentler ways that don't involve, you know, trying to push your pain level each time and then react to it well. You know,
Mm,
it's like I'm gonna push myself into pain and then challenge myself to react to it better. But
yeah, true. I
generally,
think the trouble is it's inconsistent as well because sometimes I'll see him and I'll just feel great afterwards,
yeah,
and other times I will get, and what I'm not even talking about pain really. It's sensations. It's different from when I went in, but then I start worrying at it
yeah,
and going, oh, is that okay? Is that okay? Is that okay? And then I obviously sit slightly,
yeah,
not relaxed and that, and I know that the times when it's been good after treatment is usually because there's nothing on the horizon. There's no, I don't have to be good. I can just let it settle down, do what it's going to do.
yeah,
And the times when it's not is because I'm about to go on holiday or I've got an event or something. And so it's nothing to do with him.
yeah.
It's where I am and how I go into the treatment and
Mhm.
all of that. And I know it, and it's just
Yeah.
frustration of knowing it and not.
Yeah. But again, I think I don't know, my sense, and this is just, my personal opinion from what I'm hearing, is just like you're, doing something that is, you've tied it to feeling better. He's even saying you don't even need to come in so much. And like
Yeah.
massage is a good example where people can be like, well, it's just good to get a massage. Well, yeah, maybe every once in a while. It's not like if you are feeling urgent about going every single week in order to feel better, you're still telling your brain something's physically going on. And there are plenty of people that don't get massages and are totally healthy. And maybe you like to do that because you pamper yourself, but there's a difference between like, I'm going for this treatment because it's just, good for me. And like, I really need to go to this treatment every week
Yeah.
and just deal with, how
Yeah. And the
sensation.
bottom line is he is still sending a message of you should do this preventatively. So you should be coming every 6 weeks and things.
Yeah.
And that's sending me a message of like, if I don't, I'm setting myself up for a bigger fall, that kind of thing. Which,
Well,
yeah,
keep
not
diving into
great.
this work. It sounds like you're pretty new to it, and I'm glad you found it. And definitely, there's many people that don't go. I've never gone for one of those preventative treatments. I don't even know what they are, but it sounds kind of like some treatments are really painful. People are like, oh, dry needling, that helped me so much. And it's like, oh yeah, it's really painful when they do it, but I have like a couple hours of relief after. I'm like, okay, but what if we just skip all that and just start from the brain and just
from the
tell,
belief.
the brain to be in the safe mode. And then we don't really need all these like massages and stuff for tight muscles because our muscles aren't so tight.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Usually I don't do that, but I don't know. It's just like coaching for the pain that or sensations I'm getting after this treatment that, maybe questionable. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right, Tara. Someone said
Hello.
more present. Hi. Oh,
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, my question so I'm a personal trainer and I've been in the realm of like fitness, and when I kind of like the way I've always been educated is if it hurts, stop. If it hurts, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So I always have that in the back of my head. But I've been doing some work. I actually met with Dr. Strax and I've worked with some of his practitioners, and he's like, you're basically 100% not even questioning that you have mind-body syndrome.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I've like started running again. I'm trying to get to be a little bit more active because my issue is usually knee pain. And so like the more I'm running, like my knees are still bothering me, and I'm starting to notice like what seems to be like IT band syndrome or like sciatica. And I guess my question is like, how do I get out of like the personal trainer, what we've always been taught mindset, and into the mind body syndrome? Because I go out for a run, like right now my IT band is bothering me. So I'm like, oh, now you have IT band syndrome. Not necessarily true, but that's kind of where my head goes.
Yeah, for sure. I can relate to that from physical therapy. There's that, stuff all in my head. And then there's like just knowing that I'm that kind of person that under stress or under fear, maybe, upping my workouts and doing that thing, whatever it is, my body may react in certain ways. So trying to think of how I got so strong in the belief that like it's probably mind body over anything else, because now I've really flipped. Other than digestive stuff, I still sometimes confuse that. I'm like, oh, it might be what I ate. And then but generally, we look for some of the ways, like the fit criteria, the ways that neuroplastic pain behaves, right? Is it inconsistent ever? Does it come and go? If it is with a certain activity, one way of just kind of testing how strong that reaction is in your mind is what we did earlier, that graded exposure, like imagining yourself running. So if you, like today, for example, you said your IT band has been bugging you.
Yeah.
And is it like right now? Is it all the time? Is it just when you run?
So this is the weird thing. I can run and have basically little to no pain.
Hmm.
My pain always comes on after my runs.
Okay, so you know,
And
sorry.
yeah, and I've like earlier you were talking about that is more stress induced. I've never heard that before. So that kind of like threw me for a loop.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, wow, oh, that's something new. But yeah, the pain usually comes on afterwards and it's extremely inconsistent.
Okay, okay, good clues, both of those things. So the first one that we know from the fit criteria, do you know what I mean by the fit criteria? Okay, yeah, Dr. Schubner's, is that if we broke our arm when we were exercising, we would feel it, right? We wouldn't be like, oh, 4 hours later, it got really bad. If there's tissue damage, you feel it in that time, unless you're like running from a bear or something. But in a normal environment, you would feel when you're getting hurt, when there's injury, when there's damage, and then it's not like I didn't feel it and then I did. Or some days I did feel it, some days I didn't, right? With the same activity. So both of those things are good signs that it's neuroplastic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also how you react to the pain or symptoms when you do have them really affects how long they stay around. So if you're like, okay, I know that if I run and then it starts to hurt an hour after, it's going to hurt the whole rest of the night and probably the next day too. Any of those kind of things that you start to predict, your body can do. And it usually just kind of gets worse and worse. Like we kind of heard with the person before, it's like, it takes me 4 days to recover now. When before it wasn't as much, right? So it's like, noticing when that pain or symptom first comes, the more you can just question that, the easier it'll be, right? So rather than waiting until, I'll wait for 3 months and then look into it, it's like, wait, let's just get really curious. When I do have a symptom, how do I react? So do you remember those 6 F's?
Yes.
Do you resonate with any of those, or do you feel like you react in a different way?
Well, I try very hard not to, but I know like I tend to fear and focus and then find a way to fix it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
All those things. Yeah.
Well, because like in the realm of personal training, okay, if it's tight, go foam roll. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And I would say I would do that same kind of thing too, as like I would kind of tell myself the narrative of like, this calms my nervous system. When I, take a warm bath, and when I take an Epsom salt bath, that's a really good like placebo for me. And I'll even say it like that sometimes. Oh, I'm going to take this placebo. It's a ibuprofen or whatever. I'm just kind of reinforcing to my brain. It's just like a way of playing with it, to just open that door just a crack of like, oh, maybe these pains actually come and go. And the less I'm worried about them, the more I see that pattern of just they come, they go, I'll have a pain. Sometimes I'll have a pain while I'm running or doing yoga, and then it can go away because I'm like, no, you're okay, you're safe. But the way I guess that I think what helped me the most is just thinking, yes, you can have a tight IT band because your brain is tightening the fascia around it, right? It's like the brain connects to all the fascia. The fascia is surrounding every muscle fiber, every joint, ligament, nerve. So if the brain tells that fascia to tighten up because, there's some other stress in your life or whatever is going on, but you have these neural pathways for IT band tightness, then it's just the brain controlling all of it.
sure.
So yes, there could be a physical tracking thing or whatever, but I'm like, oh, okay, I just need to almost like an internal massage, have my brain relax that. And maybe the foam roller helps too, but it's more about just feeling secure, safe, that I know what I'm doing, that I'm doing something to help it and it's going to be fine. And then sometimes I don't even need to do the foam roller if I get home and, but does that make sense? That's how I
Yeah.
integrate some of those physical things, but also just reinforcing to my brain, it's actually not like a real injury. I mean, like it, got tight, and syndrome usually even means something kind of more chronic, which I think of as more mind body.
Yes. Well, and all of my stuff like stemmed from my knee pain. So it's
Yeah.
like when other things start to pop up,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to be like, okay, these are just my nervous system trying to get my attention in other ways
Yeah.
versus it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And when you have maybe even making that evidence sheet, oh, I went running this day, same amount of miles, and didn't have the pain after, right? Because your brain forgets those things. But I like to really be that detective for the opposite, like a detective from the movies that has the notepad in their pocket and they are just like, did you see that little, wisp of hair? They're like focused on just like, because for one thing, that changes your mindset into looking for when it feels better, right? You're telling your really powerful brain, I've got a new assignment for you. Instead of being hyper vigilant and trying to fix all this stuff, which actually is making it worse, look for times that it feels better. Look for what's going on when I, feel better in those evenings. How come that's different than, right? And
Yeah.
Good.
Yep. Totally makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So you can start to build your own evidence. Because even with
Yeah.
working with all these professionals, it's still like when we get in those moments, it's like it's hard to really distinguish what's, quote unquote, real pain or not, because it's all real pain. But you're stronger than you think you are. Your body's strong and safe and healthy. If it was really damaging you, you would feel it during the activity.
Okay.
Like no tissues being damaged. Sometimes I like that too, is like sometimes I'll have some pain because like my boot is on wrong skiing and it's uncomfortable, but I still have to make it down the hill. And I'm like, instead of focusing on the pain, I'm like, there's no injury actually happening. My tissue is fine. It's safe and healthy, just
Yeah.
kind of reminding myself those little things.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I hope that helped. Okay, we're back to iPhone. I hope this is, who you are. Go ahead and,
Hey,
yeah,
hello.
I saw your message. No name show.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I
Oh,
didn't
no,
realize
that's
it.
okay. I'm trying to
I
I
didn't
feel
log in.
better at keeping up on these chats over here, but
Yeah.
okay.
My name is Tanya. I have a question. I might be mistaken, but I think I saw your post several months ago in the Tell Me About Your Pain group, saying that you or another person had a pain and started journaling and understood what emotion caused the pain and worked with emotion, either it was sadness or something was frustrating, and the pain has resolved. And like in this post, it was stated, if anyone asks a question when I'm gonna be pain-free, so the answer is never, because we are all human beings and it can happen from time to time. We will be having some pains or symptoms or some sensations that would mean that we are probably under more stress than usual. Is it something?
Yeah.
Is it true?
Yeah. Yeah. And even Dr. Schubiner says he gets some pain every once in a while. And he said this is fascinating. He said he had bulging discs in his neck and one is pressing on a nerve, but he doesn't have chronic neck pain. And when he said sometimes he gets pains every once in a while, he didn't say just his neck, but he does like 2 Zumba classes in a row. He does Zumba all the time. So what I meant by that is like, you don't necessarily have chronic pain your whole life, right? I don't wake up every day thinking, oh, I bet my back's going to hurt, or maybe it's going to hurt or not. But a few times it's happened in the last 3 years, probably twice in the last 3 years. I've had a flare of back pain that is in an area where I once had a snowboarding injury years and years ago. It doesn't hurt me day to day, but it put me down for a few days. And I mean, I wouldn't even say put me down, but it was different, right? I didn't do some of the same things, but now that I have the tools I have, I react to it so much differently. So I can have that and I know, okay, there's probably some stressor. Maybe I don't even know what it is. I'm going to be really kind to myself for the next few days. And I know it's going to go away. And it's easier for me to say because I've had that experience. But when you're just a normal human and you're growing and you're evolving, you're not going to feel perfect all the time, right? You could, my example is always like, with my business, sometimes I go to send an email, my body's just in freeze and I'm feeling, or I'm feeling anxious about sending an email where maybe that primitive part of me thinks I might get rejected, right? So it's more just about, okay, I have this symptom of anxiety and again, oh, it's just from this trigger. We talk about it as far as being able to explain it. Oh, I went into flight because I was probably at some level scared. And usually those symptoms can go away quite quickly. I won't say they always do, but does that make sense as far as how as humans we still have symptoms, but it's not like an everyday thing?
Yeah, I understand. But mostly patients who say they recovered from chronic pain, do they come back? Does this chronic pain or pain ever come
Oh,
back? Or they
I mean,
recover it and that's it. They move on with their life and
yeah, it's more
live.
like it can come back. And if it's not, the exact same spot, sometimes it's like the other side of their back, or sometimes it's their other shoulder, or sometimes it's a different area. But like I was just saying with Tara, it's like starting to recognize this pattern in yourself so sooner and sooner, so that when a new thing does come up or when that old thing comes up again, you're just like, oh, this is just an indication of this is how Dr. Schubner is, your environment and how you're reacting to it. Your pain or symptoms are an indication of what you're going on in your environment and how you're reacting to it.
But then do we have to strive to live a like relatively stress-free life? And
No, exactly.
or
No,
we have to know how to deal with this with the everyday
yeah,
stress.
yeah. And when you're not in chronic pain and using all of your energy for survival, I had one client that now she's not bedbound and she's gotten so much better that she's actually starting a business. And so now she might get some, other symptoms because of that stress of starting a business, but it's like a stress she's choosing, right? It's a stress of growth. It's a stress of evolving. And so that's how we want to be, is kind of riding those waves of like, okay, I'm stretching myself, but not, stressing myself to the point that I did when I had chronic pain and I had no tools of how to deal with it.
So the goal is not to prevent ourselves of having a setback, but the goal is
Not at
to
all.
like change your mindset and your relationship to this pain and
Yeah.
show your brain again and again that I'm okay. It's just temporarily. It will go away.
Yeah.
I'm calm. I'm safe. I'm okay.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Because when we're focused on not having pain, then we could believe that if we have a setback that we're doing something wrong. And then that makes it really hard to recover, because then you're like, what is going on? I don't know what I did wrong. But seeing it's not about decreasing the symptom, it's about decreasing the fear and those fear responses of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It's about decreasing that, and then the pain goes away.
But do you frequently have patients who got better, but then after a period of time, it's just came back and that's it? They have to start it over again.
Well, usually people already, they have some tools. And so they either don't, tell me and they like don't come back for coaching because they know how to handle it themselves, or they might need a coaching or session or two, just like you kind of go to the dentist every once in a while to, for dental hygiene, it's like mental hygiene. So, I mean, I haven't had someone like who's had really bad pain go back to that same level and stay there that I know of. And no one's told me that. But when we're fearing that that might happen, then that would make it more likely to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
usually it's more like, okay, instead of, getting maybe washed over by the waves, I'm learning how to ride those waves. So I still am going to have waves in my life, but I'm not just like drowning in the waves because now I have a surfboard and know how to surf them.
Yeah, and I totally understand, but it's just so hard to not get frustrated and not to go out in the cycle of fear and pain, and just trying to think when it's gonna go away. Is it gonna be temporarily, or it will take me months to recover again?
Yeah,
It's hard.
that's a sign. Yeah.
This part is hard.
Yeah, that does make sense. And I bet everyone here, most people here at least, have felt that same exact thing of like, okay, I believe in this work. I, maybe have made some progress. And then when you have a setback, that can feel even worse. And when you have the unknown of not knowing how long it's going to last, and you're trying to base that on what's happened in the past, but you're kind of forgetting about, oh, there's these new tools and this new way of seeing it as like a setback that doesn't actually mean anything. It's just a good chance for rewiring your brain.
Okay. So as Alan says, we have to see it as opportunity to train our brain again, rather than being discouraged.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll believe that better than others. If you're down in the bottom of freeze, you'll just be like, shut up. I hate that. That's how I am, at least. I'm like, don't try to tell me to be happy about this and see it as an opportunity. I hate this opportunity.
Exactly.
I don't like opportunities. But you might find you get a night's rest, or you talk to a friend, and then you're like, okay, here's this chance to rewire my brain. And how can I teach it that I don't need to be afraid? What helps me not feel afraid? How can I do something else to change my focus so I'm for 5 minutes not afraid? Right? It's like little steps of teaching your brain not to have this pattern of focus and anxiety. And if the pain isn't here, when's it coming back? And if it is here, how long? Just
this sounds so familiar to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the good thing about freeze is like you always come back up. Like everyone comes back up at some point, and it does feel really good once you come back up. It's like that contrast can feel really nice. Like, oh, okay, starting to feel better, and I really appreciate it now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thanks for coming. Okay.
Thank you.
Free. Mary, are you here? I need to look at these. I want to look.
I am. I said I am, but I was unmuted.
Yeah. And I didn't see you, so. Okay. Hey, what's up, Mary?
Hey. Well, so I have to go. Let me put my picture up here for you. I have to go. I have to go get a new crown put on Tuesday.
Mhm.
So I'm nervous about that. I'm sure that I will be fine.
Mhm.
I might have some. It makes me nervous when I have to go to the dentist. It's just not very much fun to have them go and drill, and I have to have a tooth filled, and I'm worried about how is my mouth going to end up.
Mhm.
So I want a little help calming myself before I do that.
Yeah.
And then to add to that, my daughter is coming home with her grandchildren, and after I'm at the dentist, she wants to drive an hour away and go to the zoo with my grandchildren.
Mhm.
So normally I wouldn't be super worried. I would just, I'm going to go to the dentist, and I might have some extra feelings, and I'll just, I'll just spend the rest of the day calming myself down. But I told her I wasn't sure I could do that, but my old self would have just done it. So I feel like I should be able to do that, though.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what the right answer is to that, but
it's a lot of stuff in one day.
Yeah, like exactly. Yeah, I think maybe you'll even have some clarity about it when we do some of this somatic work to calm your mind down about it. Because I think there's like no wrong answer, but the right answer is doing what you're in alignment with. The wrong answer, I guess, is people pleasing. So that's the wrong answer. But
well, I mean, it's because of the way her visit is.
Oh yeah.
That's the best day to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
you know, because I was like, well, we could do it on this day, but she said, but I'm going home that day, and it's an hour in the opposite direction. So she's got to drive with like a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old 2.5 hours away. So it's a lot for her. So yeah, but yeah, right. I didn't think about the people pleasing thing.
Yeah. And like, I guess there is a wrong answer that your body would probably yell at you for, but other
Right.
than that, you know, you could stay or go if whatever you're in.
And she's not pressuring me to do
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah.
She's being really, you know, she's like, well, you know, and I said, well, you know, you guys could go while I'm at the dentist without me. I mean, that's one option. But it would be fun to go with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
whether it happens or not, I do need to settle down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I know you've had tooth work done.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I feel like
It's stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I've totally noticed, so you can notice this when you're there, is I could be completely numb and really not feel, you know, maybe you hear the drilling and maybe you feel a little tiny bit of pressure, but like riveted with anxiety in my chair.
Yes.
Actually,
yes.
yeah. And then I'm
I've
like,
done
"Hey,
that before when
I'm
I've
not
noticed
feeling
that my
anything."
hands are just clamped onto the
Yeah.
handle.
Yeah. And I
So
think
no wonder why I get a backache when I do it.
Right? Because we're just like in this high alert and I'm totally in the future. What he's doing right now, how's that going to feel? Oh, I don't feel it now. I'm going to feel it later. Oh, you know what I mean? And even
And
though
my
the actual
right.
moment.
Yeah.
So I tried this last time. I was like, okay, instead of usually what my brain would do is like be right there with every instrument. And, you know, I'm like focusing on it with my brain where he's touching and what he's drilling. So I started just, you know, like tuning into my big toe and focusing on my feet and focusing on my breath. And like that actually really helped the moment to moment anxiety when I was there.
Or maybe even just focusing on, I can see a tree outside the window.
Yeah, do
So
that.
I was wondering if I could do this
peripheral.
in this peripheral thing that you've been doing with us while I'm in the dentist chair.
Yes, exactly.
So my big worry is that my bite is going to end up being goofy because I have so many crowns already, but he is a very good dentist and he's very, because now they
just like shave it down though if it's off.
Well, I had an experience where I had a dentist that put one in and my bite was super off. Like my one side was way higher than the other, but that is
But
all
then
resolved.
you can just, I mean, that happened to me once where it was like, it felt, you know, off and I went back in and they shaved it down. And
right. Yeah. Oh, good point.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
it.
done a good point. He's done a really good job, but it just,
Okay.
I don't know, the whole thing is nerve-wracking. So yes, I think
little things to remind your brain, but let's get to the like that fear of the dentist thing. So let's do that peripheral vision. Let's have you close your eyes first though, and think about that fear that happens going to the dentist, that anxiety before or that dread. And just think about, you know, the fact that you have to get that work done and what he's gonna have to do and
expensive.
It's expensive. Yeah, that's a stressor. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how does that feel in your body? Intensity from 0 to 10, what number would you give it?
I don't know, maybe like a 6 or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then if you go ahead and open your eyes and then find your spot that you can stare at, focus in on it, get those eyes fixed on it, and then relax those eye muscles, start to open your periphery, start to see and sense more and more of what's to the sides of you, what's behind you. See how that feels. How is that feeling to you?
Good. I always start breathing much slower when I'm doing that.
Yeah. Okay. And then go ahead and close your eyes again and think of going to the dentist. Think of the expense. Think of the work. Keep on thinking of anything else that comes up, right? The going to the zoo after you might think about. And so maybe that level gets high again. That's okay. We want to bring it. We want to just think of those things that come up anyway, feel them, and see how intense it gets.
It's like a 7 because I'm thinking about, okay, I'm not good. Now I'm hopping in a car. I'm going to the zoo. I'm gonna have to stand and walk and
Okay, so that brought it up a little. Good, good. There's an example of outcome independence where we're like, okay, that doesn't matter that it went up.
yeah, it's bringing up my anxiety.
We
I
want to
mean,
bring it up. Yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah,
wanna
it
teach
brings up anxiety. Yeah.
that it's safe. And okay, so go ahead and open your eyes and start
Okay.
to stare at your spot and start to open up that periphery. I'm catching up on the chat a little. Good. Notice more and more of what's on the sides of you, and maybe even see if you can sense what's behind you or above you or below you. See how that feels. Does that help shift the sensations?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. If you close your eyes and think of that again, think of the dentist, think of, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, if you think of the dentist and walking around, maybe that makes it worse and higher, or not worse, but yeah, more anxiety. But that's
The
still
thing
something.
is I know that the next day I'll be fine.
Yeah, and
So,
the
I
next,
mean, so that's the point I've reached now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't ever get in so much pain that it's like I'm stuck in Groundhog Day now.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and the pain levels I have are not crazy anymore either. I'm just kind of, I think I'm just training my body that I'm doing better. I'm doing, like, I painted 2 bathroom ceilings this week, and I didn't, like Dr. Schubner, I also have really bad arthritis in my neck, and it didn't bother my neck at all. So it's
Oh,
just this lower body back numbness in my feet stuff that I'm still working on. So I've come so far.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
know,
So you
even
know that, yeah, a little sensation, you could be hurt but not harmed.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Going to the zoo isn't going to harm me. I just may not be feeling as well at the zoo as I'd like to, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
but
yeah, maybe just kind of when you feel in a calm place about it, just kind of asking yourself, like, what do you want to do? Sometimes I ask myself in the third person like that, like, what do you want? Like, what sounds safest to you?
Right.
What sounds like the most fun to you?
Okay. All right. Good plan.
How does it feel when you think about the dentist again? If you just close your eyes one last time, we'll check in. And you guys, you can just kind of repeat this process. I think you're conscious of time, so I appreciate that. But
yeah, I do feel calmer about it. And I think I'll continue to practice that over the weekend. That's why I wanted to get on with you today, is so that I could, over the weekend, I could continue to do it.
Yes.
And then by the time Tuesday comes around, I'm still going to be stressed out about it.
Yeah.
But
well, maybe what you do first then is take just the dentist first and on that one and just do a few rounds of that. And when the dentist one feels pretty easy, then imagine going to the dentist and then the zoo and see how that feels. Right. So then we're not combining the two. And either way, you'll want to do this for going to the dentist anyway, because
it's good practice, because I'm never going to like going to the dentist.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, someone was even in the comments, she just said, or reschedule the dentist. So sometimes when we get a little calmer about things, maybe even we think about a third solution that we didn't think of before. So really, like I said, the choices.
I did think about rescheduling the dentist, but I already did that once.
Oh yeah.
and I want to be cognizant of the fact that they're a business, and it's the appointment's on Tuesday. If I reschedule on Monday, that means they probably won't find somebody to fit that time. And then that's 2.5 or 3 hours lost of their income.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that could be, and sometimes we get into a little bit of people pleasing. I'm not saying this is the case, but like we could just look at like sometimes maybe if you gave them a little more notice, you could find someone and they have a on-call list, and someone who really wanted to get in gets to get in.
Good point.
actually made their day, and then it was a win-win. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can just
Yeah.
kind of look at it a
No,
little.
I like that. That's a good thought.
I know my dad.
I could call them and ask
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
if
Yeah, they
it
might
would
be
work
like,
for
oh,
them.
thank goodness, we were trying to get this person in and we've just hadn't had any spaces. We were hoping someone would cancel. I mean,
Yes, and yeah, and I think the person that commented that way on that also.
Oh,
I'm
so-
not trying to be negative about their comment.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just to say, yeah, like sometimes we kind of get in our head of like, oh, that would be, like, oh, I don't want to inconvenience them. And sometimes that's just all stuff we've made up from, being a people pleaser and being so considerate of everyone else that we forget about our own needs.
Well, I do actually think, just like doctors, though, that they do have rules about when you can
Yeah.
cancel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to take
So-
all those factors into consideration, but definitely like the calmer you get about the dentist, and then the calmer you get about the zoo after the dentist, like easier it will be to make that decision. It will
And
be.
the other thing is I like to get the dentist done.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So, I mean,
right?
that's the other thing is like, okay, maybe I just need to get through it and do it.
Yeah.
And I can be like, okay, it's done now.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think of like people who get tattoos, like they go through a lot of pain on purpose because they want, the result of it is what they really want. So I think we can actually bear a lot of sensation when it's our choice,
Well, I mean, I've had dry needling done, and that can be extremely painful.
Yeah.
In my case, it did last for longer than like a couple days. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's really painful.
Exactly.
So yeah.
I mean,
And
I get Botox. I mean, I get like needles in my face. So I'm like, yeah, sometimes we do that because we want the thing more than we want the pain. And we just,
Sure.
the pain is just, part of it. But, a lot of times you're numb when they're doing it, the numbness wears off, and, you can have ibuprofen or whatever on board. And, just from that practical standpoint, you can do those things that help support your nervous system so you feel less stressed.
You know what is really weird though? I'm allergic to naproxen.
Mhm.
I took it in a mass. I took it, a lot of it, when I was much younger. A doctor gave it to me. He thought maybe I had arthritis like my dad.
Mhm.
And lately, when I take ibuprofen, I get a rash all over my body.
Ah, funny.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something in my nervous system, that if I really am allergic to it or if I'm not.
Well, since you're in this work and it's a new thing, I'm
It just
highly suspect.
happened to me last September, and it just
Exactly.
happened to me now.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
I tend to look at that with a little more skepticism of, is this a real allergy that just developed out of nowhere? Or is it like more likely that I'm the type of person that when my nervous system is turned up, it can activate some of those old neural pathways it's had before. It can find some new ones. I'm the kind of person that expresses things through my body.
Okay, right.
And
Okay, so maybe it is.
weird random things that I've never had before that come out of nowhere, and especially like an allergy, right? You kind of think like, okay, if I was allergic, why did it just come on at this time?
Yeah, because I woke up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Woke up and I looked in the mirror, and my whole like chest was red and was super itchy.
Yeah, and our brain can create all of those like very real things, even swelling and itching and all of those things. And I would just notice if there's fear with it, right? So if you're taking anything with fear and then you have that symptom versus if you're just like not thinking of it at all, or right,
Sure.
then there's probably even more of a chance because you had that a reaction with the naproxen, and then maybe there was just kind of some fear about taking things,
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So then, yeah.
All right.
So yeah, don't take the ibuprofen then. That doesn't sound like it would be a relaxing.
No, I was just,
You know what I mean?
actually I was thinking if that hadn't happened to me, that's probably how I would have solved going to the zoo. I would have just taken a couple ibuprofen because it would have helped me, and then I wouldn't have had to worry about it. But yeah. Interesting.
Super interesting. Because
Yeah.
you can just really do what you want with that situation. I don't know even what I would do necessarily. Because usually when I get a crown put on, I'm like, I'm just gonna rest the rest of the day. I don't really.
Yeah, because you're upside down, and And it just it's just kind of draining. It's a kind of
Yeah.
a draining day. It's like
Yeah.
3 hours in a chair.
Yeah,
So
that could be, yeah, that could be just kind of something that I'm like, if my opportunity, oh no, actually, one day I really wanted to go dancing and I'd had a tooth extracted that day and I went dancing
okay.
that day.
Oh, you did?
So
You
I'm
had
like,
a
wait, when I did want to
Wow.
do something, I did it. Yeah,
Okay.
I have the gauze in and I'm like, oh, I'll just, I think I can still dance.
Well, I do have your note up. What did you say to me the other day? What if everything is going, what does it say?
What if everything is easier?
What if everything is easier than I think it is? I wrote that down
Yes.
and I put it in my kitchen.
Good. I love that. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that actually from a client. It's just like, what if everything is easier than I think it is? And it is such a helpful thing when you're having that anxiety and you're worried about
Yeah.
something.
And so I painted a ceiling in my bathroom and then I painted another ceiling. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I mean, it wasn't as easy as when I was 40 or 30.
Mhm.
But yeah.
But yeah, who knows? Like what else is possible when you have that attitude of like, what if
Yeah.
it's not going to be that bad? What if it's easier than I think?
Mhm.
Then again, it just opens that door just a crack and
Mhm.
you don't even have to know. But if you have that curious attitude, I've seen amazing things happen. Amazing.
Yeah.
But when you
Well,
have
you're
an
amazing.
attitude,
Thank you for doing it.
oh yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's
Mhm.
been so fun, you guys. Okay, there's
Okay.
definitely a question that I need to get to from the email too. Someone emailed me a couple days ago. I should have had that pulled up too. But I was just going to see if there was anything that jumps out at me from the chat. Chronic headaches and migraines. Someone was asking about, yeah, definitely this work is great for that. There's actually a study I heard about that's going on from a Utah professor, I think, or researcher, and he's doing, I think it's a virtual study on migraines and headaches. I think just migraines actually, and it's using EAET, which is Dr. Schubner's emotional awareness and expression therapy, EAET, and it's a, I think, 8-week program, and it's free, and it's group, I think, counseling once a week or something like that. But yeah, definitely migraines and headaches. Dr. Schubner says like 99% of the time are caused by neuroplastic or mind-body syndrome. But if it's not like a tumor or an infection, something like that, right? Right, a disease. But usually a lot of people have ruled everything out. They don't know why there's headaches and migraines, then that's certainly neuroplastic. And even the genetic component, again, genes can turn on and off. Okay, just seeing if there's anything else I missed. Oh, when you say open up the periphery, does that mean looking around with your eyes or still in the same direction? Yeah, still in the same direction, but then you just like allow more and more of what you're seeing around you. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of weird wording, I know. Like imagine what's behind you or sense what's behind you. With the chronic migraine and headache flares is the same with teaching the body sensations are safe and there's no danger. Yeah, exactly. Just like, if I had that abdominal pain, I would be like, okay, it's not because I ate something bad. It's not because not because of the broccoli that I ate. It's just because I'm stressed and I know how to deal with that. And I'm gonna, what do I need right now that would feel good? Calm down. And then when to know when to listen to the body or rest or challenge self. This is such a good question. And go on and get out and about with like headaches and PMS symptoms. Yeah, there's no like way to determine it 100%. It's kind of your playground right now. You get to kind of explore what works for you. Generally, we want to do more of the kind of graded exposure, not just going from bed bound to out all day. Right? Of course you wouldn't, but definitely, I've had times where I might be running and I do start to get to some pain and I stop, or I might be like, oh, I don't think this is anything. And I focus on something else, or just realize, oh, I was stressed when I was, what was I just thinking about? Oh, I was thinking about that stressful thing. And right. So, and then I might just keep running and not stop. So that is the hard thing. So the best advice I have is just like check in with yourself how you're feeling about it. If you're feeling more like playful and curious and like I was with the dancing with my tooth, I was just like, yeah, this sounds like fun for me. But if you're really fearful about it, if you're have a lot of dread about it, then chances are it's not good to push yourself. Yeah. Wondering about tinnitus, ear pain from sound damage. I don't know about the sound damage part of it, but definitely tinnitus is on that list of mind-body symptoms. What I've heard, I researched tinnitus just a little bit, and I think I heard that there's not a correlation with tinnitus and damage, but I wish I remembered more of that. But definitely tinnitus, I've known a lot of people that have had that and had that go away. Dr. Schubiner suggests the reframe of listening to it like almost like it's music, like a musical note or something, right? I know most people with tinnitus say it's super annoying, and I've had some times actually of having it just briefly when I've been talking to someone who has it sometimes even. But yeah, the one way that you could know is to just really start doing this work and start just checking it out and just being curious and reacting to it differently. Most people are able to notice. There might be sometimes they sense it more or hear it more and less. So that can be a little clue. Okay, I was able to realize that when I was driving and listening to that song and singing along to it, I didn't hear that. And what we know is pain or sensations that we're aware of, that's in our consciousness. So if it's like not in our consciousness, it's not happening. So it's not like the tinnitus is always going on and we're distracted. We're listening to the music, the tinnitus is not going on. So hopefully that helps. But I am a little curious about this sound damage thing. Like, can people have that same kind of damage, what is it, those little hair things that get damaged? Could someone have that and not have tinnitus? That's a good clue. Time for to answer a question which follows from Andy. Yeah, let's do it. Of course. I still have like 40 minutes before I need to go. And I actually don't even need to go to the bathroom or anything yet. So we're going strong. We're going to make a new record here. I still need to find that email too. So whoever asked about the other question from Andy or following Andy's, please just unmute yourself. Try to find that email. Is anyone there for that?
Hello.
Oh, hi. Oh, it's Fiona. Hi.
Hi. Thanks, Betsy. Thank you so much. It's been so good. I only found it by chance tonight. To be honest, I missed a little bit of Andy's because I had to go out and get something to eat because I'm in the UK.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't catch what treatment she was having. But I have a lot of neck pain, and dizziness is my worst thing. Neck pain, migraine, headache, dizziness. Dizziness is just horrendous. It's just awful. And I occasionally see a chiropractor, but he's a McTimoney, so he's a gentle chiropractor, not a crunchy, swinging your neck around. And I'm the one, I think I mentioned on the Tell Me About Your Pain, I'm due very major surgery next month, which I am somewhere between completely terrified about and kind of relieved as well. It needs to be done. So obviously I've had a lot of increase in symptoms, and I haven't really got that far. The only progress really I've made with this whole thing is that I'm much better on people pleasing, but ramped up dizziness and everything, and my neck was so painful. I went to see my chiropractor yesterday, and I do seem to react badly after a treatment. And he's very gentle, and he knows I'm a bit of a wuss about treatments. He does that. But today, I was out putting the bins out. It's a big thing in England, and I don't know whether I nearly fell over or passed out or just lost my balance, but it scared me so much that the dizziness ramped up even more. And I think it's probably because he adjusted my neck. So of course, because my neck, so I couldn't turn my neck to the left at all, really. But it's just put me into.
Why would we make that connection? I mean, like, I'm just curious. Why?
Bringing up the neck so that it actually will move because the joints are stuck. And I'm just wondering whether it was because I do seem to react quite badly. I mean, he's great. He's a great guy. And, you know, he's pretty holistic. He understands emotional background to things, and said, you know, I think you're obviously pretty wound up about this surgery. But I'm just wondering, so today has been almost a write-off with dizziness and feeling panicky because of what happened this morning. And I'm thinking,
okay,
is, you know, whether I do go to the chiropractor, but sometimes it will settle down. But I think I'm in such a high state of fear. I've got fear around the symptoms anyway.
Yeah.
Whether this is really, it's all ramped up because of the fear of the surgery.
Yeah. And I would say it's probably.
But when you were talking to Andy, I'm thinking, gosh, this is sounding a bit similar. That sort of, I almost now expect, however lovely he is and he's gentle, that the following day after chiropractic, I feel terrible. Almost, not always, but almost always.
Okay.
Is that the mind, or is it because chiropractic does sort of move joints and realigns things and the nervous system gets irritated? I don't know.
I would say moving joints and aligning things, if you're not already in a nervous system, you know, distressed state, is fine, right? Sometimes you do it and it's fine. And other times you do it and you're not fine, and you're relating it to that when it's more the fear that's going on or the nervous system state that you're in.
Yeah. Well, I'm just sort of, I mean, it was so bad this afternoon that my best friend came over. We were going to go out, and I said to her, I can't go. I just feel too, you know, she's fine. She was fine about it. And it was the right decision. I mean, normally I try and push through, but I thought, you know, I'm having really major surgery and I live on my own. So it's all worrying. And I've had some medical sort of dramas before. This will be my second operation this year.
What do you think about not going to the chiropractor? What comes up for you when you think about not going?
About not going to see him.
How does that feel to you?
I suppose a bit of me thinks, I'm going to have to put up with this intense pain longer. But then I have had it where I can't turn my neck to the left, or sometimes, I mean, it can shift from the left to the right. So that's kind of indicative that there's nothing really wrong. Although, of course, obviously, I've had a doctor in the past say once that, you know, your neck's unstable. But it will free itself up. But I just thought, well, I'll get it put right. And actually, but then I think at the back of my mind, probably I'm sounding bonkers, aren't I? But, you know, am I thinking I'm going to feel lousy the following day? Because so much so I tend to not book anything the following day. So that shows us fear, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So this is a common thing where even think of this example. We might eat a piece of cake and it tastes really good. And then on another day, we eat a piece of cake and we were kind of nervous, or we were, you know, and we're like, oh, that didn't taste as good. But we're still like, no, cake is good. Cake is good. It's always good, right? So no matter what happens, even if we eat it when we're super full and we don't really want it, you know, we're just like, no, cake is good. And sometimes I think we get like that with, you know, these treatments. They were like, it helped at one point, or it helped, 3 out of the 10 times I did it, but we're still like, okay, this is needed. It's good for me. I need to do this. It's helpful. And then you actually feel worse after it. So it's really fascinating how our brains can keep convincing us we need to do these painful.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking, I'm paying for pain as well.
And you're paying for it, right? So that's where I would get curious, is like, what are my beliefs about why I'm going to the chiropractor? If, most back and neck things are not something structural. And there are people who have unstable joints, and there are people who have stiff joints and they don't have chronic pain. So seeing it as more of like, how are you on the belief that that's mind body, the next stuff?
Well, I hold my hand up. I've also spoken to Dr. Schubiner.
You guys, do you see how our brains work?
Yeah. And I actually sent him my, I had a couple of sessions with him, but it was well over a year ago.
Okay.
And I sent him the findings of my MRI to show him, because I have been told so many things. And he said, this is all mind body.
Okay.
But the bit of me then was thinking, yeah, but these MRIs were taken, back in 2016. So maybe they've changed, but and he knows, I mean, he's wonderful. He's like complete hero of mine. And I feel terrible, absolutely dreadful, sort of doubting him. But I think, well, but the MRIs were on, and he hasn't actually seen me, and I told him about dizziness, but, I've had PTSD again, and several ACEs and things like that. So, and I completely dismissed all the personality traits, and they are big, and I get all of them. So I am an absolute classic, an anxiety, terrible anxiety. So I'm answering my own questions actually as I'm talking.
This is great. Yeah, it sounds pretty clear. I never want to tell people what to do, but hopefully at least, kind of talking through things and definitely I can offer a perspective that is a little different, because what we do know from mind body stuff is that when we're very reliant on a physical treatment to solve a mind body problem, it's just like making the wrong connections. So in that sense, I guess I do kind of want people to kind of follow a certain path, but really there are people that feel so much comfort going to the chiropractor once a week, and they just, are in alignment with it and they love it, and and I'm not going to tell them to not go anymore. That's calming their nervous system. Maybe
I always feel anxious before I go.
Yeah. So that's a sign that it's probably not going to work as well for you. They know that people going into surgery, if they are catastrophizing pain, they heal slower from surgery. So this is good information for you, actually. Going into surgery is like, clean up your thinking around the, how bad it's going to be and the pain and reacting to it. And like, you're like, okay, people have a surgery like this, they heal. It's going to be uncomfortable for a while, of course, but I'm like on this healing journey. I have no reason to expect it's going to be like horrible for me, because I have these tools now. I can work on calming my mind. I can work on these personality traits. That's a huge part of a lot of our pain. Mine, for sure.
Last time I was in hospital in January, and I even tried to be the perfect patient.
Yeah, we try to be the perfect patient. We try to heal the best. We try to be the perfect meditator.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff we can work on. And
I think I was also listening to you say, sorry, this is meant to be really quick and I'm taking up too much time. I'm really sorry. But when you said that, if you're having a flare, a bad time, that you would just rest and look after yourself, put a movie on or whatever. And I'm thinking I've got 3.5 weeks to sort everything out, because it's all got to be perfect, before I go to hospital, because again, that's the whole thing. But there's nobody else to do it for me, so I've got to do that anyway. So that's got to be done. But I thought, well, it's a really big deal. It's 2 operations really, and of course I'm going to have heightened sensations.
Yeah,
it would be weird, even if I was normal. well, you know, normal as in didn't have TMS and didn't have the personality traits in the background and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
anybody else would have anxiety around having really major surgery and living on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going into respite afterwards for a few days, but so perhaps I just need to cut myself some slack and actually, you know, I've got supposed to be meeting a friend tomorrow, which not always the most relaxing, and maybe I need to say, actually, do you know what? No, maybe just
exactly.
take it easy.
Feels
I'm
right.
doing that more. I am doing that a bit more now, sort of
Yeah.
putting myself first. But
yeah. And yeah, sometimes we'll delude ourselves with there's all these things to do before, you know, I go on vacation or before the surgery, or, you know, and sometimes like I've heard clients say things like, I've got to wash all the windows and all the house, you know what I mean? So it's like, just like really take a step back of like, what's the need of what I need to do to take care of myself? And what is all this stuff I'm trying to do to decrease my anxiety so I'll feel better? And if I could just decrease my anxiety from the brain, and I'll feel better. I don't have to do 24 random things that won't really matter, which if I do or not, but I've just told myself I need to do these. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just feel like it's coming from anxiety, or like, oh, okay, this is helping my future self. That's how I like to think of it. Oh, doing this right now, that's going to help my future self when I'm going to do something.
Because I have thought, you know, I would try and use some of the like curable tools or whatever to help with the anxiety. And I thought also the lady you just spoke to about the visualization with the dentist, you know, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Now's a great time to do that. I used to, I don't know why this analogy popped in my head. It's like when I was pregnant, it was still like, oh, I still want to just like keep up with my exercise and my diet and not just be like, oh, once I'm not pregnant, that's when I'll start that again. You know, it's like, oh, I'll recover so much better after I deliver if I just keep up with, you know, exercise and staying healthy during the pregnancy, and not just be like, okay, well, after that big event, that's when I'll start all the stuff. It's like, no, start it now, and then it will just make it that much easier to have your surgery and recover.
Well, interesting. I mean, I'm old, so my son is 32, and I didn't really have anxiety as such back then. I was, you know, not ecstatic, but we didn't have the internet, we didn't have Google, so I just went along with the whole thing. You know, I had no idea, you know, there was no apps for having babies. It was just on with it, you know. So I didn't sort of have all that. I didn't know. I never thought more than one day ahead. So the anxiety really only hit me, I think, pandemic and COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just another version of these neural circuits. So if you have anxiety, it's probably because you're this type of person that expresses stuff through your body. And now that you've had a few health things, you could have some health anxiety, but it's all treated the same way. That's why Unlearn Your Pain and Unlearn Your Anxiety and Depression have the same exact workbook.
And that was why I asked you about that.
Yeah,
you know, I think
because
I thought, well, I may take with me my Kindle. I don't want to take the big book, but I may take the Kindle version and just find the one thing, just watching your whatever it was you did yesterday or the day before or whatever it was anyway you did. The book club, the questions. That immediately calm me down. As soon as I watch anything like that, that calms me down. And if there's anybody there suffers from dizziness, Dr. Yoni Tartha, the study coach, she's brilliant. I thought I'd take my Kindle, hence not taking the big book.
Yes, find those things that are calming for you, and as much as you can, because your brain's gonna go to the negative. So we want to, you know, at least as much as you can. If you could even do equal airtime, that would be great. But try to at least 5% of the time do some of that positive stuff, or 10. Yeah, good.
Thank you so much, Betsy. And I'm sorry for taking so much time. It was supposed to be a quick question, but
no worries. I'm just going to check real quick.
Thank you so much.
You're so
and thank you for all you do, you know, everything you do. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm so
And I say, if you do the book club thing again, once I'm recovered, I would probably like
yeah.
to have a go at it. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm doing that. I think you're talking about that book club integration group. So maybe while I'm
yeah,
finding that email, I'll just try to multitask. Let's see if I can do it. But yeah, I am starting that group next week. And
no, it's not going to work for me. No.
yeah, we're gonna go through all of Dr. Schubiner's workbook over 3 months. So, his workbook is 28 days. So this
Yeah.
is gonna give you a lot more time to go through it.
Next time. I've
Next
got his
time,
book,
yeah.
but I looked at his book and I thought, oh my God, I need to be too perfect to write all that down.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's overwhelming. But and I do feel like I'm relieved to hear other people say, well, I spoke to Dr. Schuber and he says, but
Isn't that
there's
funny how many
even
people
now.
said that? Yep. Yeah, our brains are like that. But yeah, so with that program, that integration group, there's some coaching too, so that when you have those struggles or have those doubts or feel like it's too much, you have support, you have someone checking in with you, time for question and answer. So it's an awesome, awesome group that we're starting. And so for those of you who are interested, you can look on my website, or you've probably been getting my emails. And I talk about it there. Okay, so I did find that question from the email.
Thank you so much, Betsy.
You're welcome, Fiona.
Thank you. I'm going to go now, actually, if
Oh
that's
yeah,
okay.
you're probably, yeah, of course.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you.
Mhm.
See you another time. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Good luck.
Okay, here's a question from my email. How do I stop being so preoccupied, almost obsessed with the fear of the pain? I've had chronic neck pain with migraines for 30 plus years, wake up with them daily, have gone around and around with medical stuff for years. Nothing ever really worked. Discovered by mind body medicine by hearing Dr. Sarno on a random podcast. After reading Ellen Gordon's The Way Out, I was instantly convinced my pain is TMS. That was about 2 years ago. Since then, I've worked with a pain therapist, discovered Curable, read and listened to everything out there, practiced mindfulness, changed and learned so much through a nervous system / stress resilience course. Just a few months ago, started realizing a lot of repressed emotions, and digging all that up has caused a fair amount of nervous system distress. I can be patient with the process because I've been in this state for so long and I know change is not quick, but I feel a real stumbling block for me at this point is my fear or preoccupation of having bad pain. Example, if I have a busy day on Wednesday, it's always in the back of my mind, oh, what if my head's really bad on Wednesday? And I plan or worry the days before around that fear, which doesn't really make sense because I have it every day and I have survived just fine. I can function through it. But I have definitely shrunk my world down because of the anticipation of it. I feel someday my relief will come, but in the meantime, I'm so busy worrying and anticipating the pain. Of course it does. So really good awareness there. Dana, she knows, she's listened to all the stuff and even done this work and had a therapist or coach, she said. And so just being able to articulate it is a good first step, right? Oh, this is the fear of the pain versus this is the pain, right? So just starting to, like we did earlier with anxiety, with emotions, you could think of what does it feel like when I feel that fear of the pain, right? So it's kind of meta, right? There's the pain and then there's the fear of the pain. And what does that feel like in the body? So sometimes it could feel the same, right? You're like, oh, the fear feels like a headache, right? It feels like the head pain, but maybe the fear feels like a clenching in the body or a tightness. So just, getting curious and describing it with different words is a good first step, because when your brain really believes these stories about fear, it's hard to just talk it out of it. But at least when you could be the observer, oh, there's my brain going into fear mode, that can help. Something along those lines that helped me is that fear catastrophizing scale. I don't know if you've seen it. They use it in research. I think I might have it right here, but maybe not. But let's see, I don't have it, but some of the statements are things like, I'm afraid that it will get worse, or it feels like nothing ever changes, or what are some of the other ones? Oh, I just forgot. Anyway, so fear catastrophizing, and oh no, I won't look it up. Anyway, I've posted it different places. I have a podcast about it. So, but when you know those phrases that are catastrophizing, then you can label it. Oh, there's my brain catastrophizing. Or sometimes it helps to just say future or past. Oh, that's a future thought. I'm worried about how I'm going to feel on Wednesday. That's future, right? And that even can help that pattern, form a new pattern. When Dr. Schubner talks about unlearning your anxiety being the same as unlearning pain, it's because that fear that you're talking about is a learned behavior that we can unlearn. And the way that we unlearn pain and anxiety is just the same by doing that somatic tracking and decreasing the fear around it. And the somatic tracking, again, is like, does it have a shape? Does it have a color? Does it have a temperature? Does it have, and the time that you're spending doing that, you're feeling that sensation with less of the intensity. And so your brain is not on high alert anymore. That danger signal goes down and the brain produces it less and less. But I think a lot of people would resonate with you, Dana, as far as the fear becoming now as big of a symptom, or sometimes even bigger of a symptom than the symptom itself. And when there's not the symptom, or it's less, starting to have fear that it will come back, or fear that will happen and it'll be bad again. So that's my advice, I think, is go to the labeling of it and then the describing of it through somatic tracking. And that's what teaches your brain to fear it less and less and less. The other thing is just, all those things you're doing to calm your nervous system, because sometimes we can try to explain to ourselves, it doesn't work as well as like showing our nervous system that we're safe. So if there are any things that are distractions that you like doing, that can also be a nice way to replace that fear, at least for a few minutes at a time, with something else. And over time, that really does help. But if we stay in that fear state, that perpetuates more fear and pain. Okay, I think another question came up here. Oh yeah, long haul COVID, and then got COVID again this year. I was worried my hair would fall out again, and now it's happening. Could I have brought this on myself because of fear? I mean, I don't know if that's like a way of saying it that feels blaming to you. Generally, when our brain does fear something, it's more likely to produce that symptom. If we've had something that happened in the past and we're fearful that it will happen again, it is more likely that would happen again. And generally, hair falling out is more of a sign of a stressed out nervous system. It could be stress from the virus, but also not everyone who had COVID had hair falling out, right? COVID was so interesting because so many different symptoms, not everyone had them. And so you could plant that seed of doubt, in your mind. Okay, maybe I won't get it this time. Maybe maybe it won't be the same this time. But it sounds like you're the type of person that does express fear and emotions through their body, probably, I'm guessing, since you're here and since you already had long haul COVID. So, it's not saying like you brought this on yourself in like a shaming way and you should have done differently, but also like our mind is super powerful. And so could our mind create that? Yeah, it could. And I don't know if anyone could ever really tell you exactly if it was COVID that caused that, or the stress around COVID, around COVID times, things were really stressful. If yeah, your hair has fallen out in other times, sometimes that's like kind of neural circuit that some people's brains might learn. And so in times of stress, that's what they do. But our brain is very good at attaching things together that don't belong and saying, okay, if I have this, I'm going to have this. If I scored a goal wearing these green socks, then it means these green socks will make me score a goal again. You know, our brain just like puts these patterns into place, and yeah, it's super powerful. So it could definitely create something like that. But yeah, I don't like to ever say like, you brought this on yourself in like a, you know, critical way, because it's not conscious. It's not conscious at all. If we chose, if we could just be conscious and our brain would listen, it'd be so much easier. There's so much subconscious stuff going on. So the most we can do is just work with it. Okay, I was just looking at the chat. Oh, there's someone. Let's see. Well, Carrie had said earlier that when she does have flares, they get less and less. So that's good to know. That was, I think, Anya's question. Daria had a same situation with sitting 4 hours. That was a problem, but she really wanted to go and be with her son. The desire was stronger than the fear. And she went, and her pain was actually less than usual. She's so happy that she went. I'll just say it in her words. It gave me confidence that I can do whatever I want to, despite what I'm feeling. I didn't have any setbacks. Actually, the next day after the trip, I felt great in my body. Wow. So good. What a great example. So yeah, I think definitely when the motivation outweighs the fear or the pleasure outweighs the fear, then anything's possible. Oh, okay. I feel lost with all the different tools. It's overwhelming. Totally, totally. I think a lot of people feel that. And the hard thing is there's no like 1 through 10 of what you're supposed to do that you could just follow a, you know, path, because everyone's so different. And so we're like, just listen to your body. And you're like, I don't know. I don't know how to do that yet. Right. So it's this, it'll all come. I like to think you get the information you need at the right time. So I don't need to go out and find all the information and study everything, but like, you know, in one moment, I may feel like listening to a podcast, so I listen to that. One time I tried to play a podcast and it didn't work, and I played another one, and it was like, that's exactly what I needed today. So that's what I like to try to think to ease that sense of overwhelm. And then I like to just, as much as possible, get curious of like, what do I like? What, you know, feels good to me? What are those times that I'm more in flow? You know, what are those times I get distracted and feel less of the sensations? But in general, we're just working on decreasing the fear. You can do it through a lot of different ways. And, you know, there's always coaching. I would say if you're feeling really stuck, you don't have to do this alone. There's coaching groups where, you know, the price is less. There's one-on-one coaching. So, you know, sometimes people just think, instead of trying to do it all on my own, like trying to do an exercise video from YouTube, I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, get a personal trainer and have some help, or do a group yoga class or something, right? So there's different levels of support you can get, but definitely feeling overwhelmed is a normal emotion to have, and it kind of keeps you stuck and immobilized. So it's hard to move through that sometimes. But my best advice is keep seeking out those things that make you feel a little better when you listen to them, when you read them. Just keep on that path. Okay, I think we got to everything. I think we did. Good timing, because I have a call in 10 minutes, 9 minutes. That's perfect. We went a little longer than I thought, but it was so fun. You guys were awesome. And I feel bad. I looked through, I did see someone on an email that said she waited an hour and a half and then had to go. So I will reach out to you. I'm so sorry about that. Tried to get to everyone in the time that worked, but didn't realize people were waiting that long, because I did get a little carried away with some of my answers. But anyway, you guys, what are you top go-to? Oh, what are my top go-tos? It's changed. If I'm like really, really confused about what's going on with my body, you know, I'm just like, why is my back hurting? I'll journal. I feel like that totally helps me. And then I'm since most of my things were more like digestive, I've been lucky in the sense that I've been able to still do a lot of physical things. So I love dancing and I love, you know, just even just walking outside. But if I can't do that, even just like sitting outside or putting my feet in the ground, I do like meditations that I listen to. I started with like listening to them, and then I started just like meditating on my own. What are some other, I'm like blanking, some weird ones that I like. I'm like, you know what I really like? I like going to a thrift store and just like puttering around and looking at things. Like that can be a relaxing thing to me. Just being like by a pool or by water, petting my dog, humming, dancing. I got into tapping for a while. I don't do it so much anymore. What else? Trying to remember. Yeah. If I had more time, I'd ask you guys what yours are, but keep gathering what works for you guys and know that it can just change from, you know, month to month or day to day too. This is your playground. You get to explore what works for you, what you like. I love watching like funny stuff. I like scrolling. Oh, this is a weird one. I like scrolling and like looking at motorhomes. I've never even like camped in one, but for some reason I just love looking at motorhomes. So you might like cat videos or things like that, but it's mainly, you know, what lights you up, what distracts you, what gets you thinking about something else other than your pain, and that will help your pain. So counterintuitive. All right, you guys, thanks so much. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Becky. Hey, bye-bye.